Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Joins the World of Resident Evil Part 2. Before we start, please go support Angel Gonzalez 753 for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. Unpleasant encounter. We can see the agents leaving the boat as best they could and going to the strange house that was near the coast, but when they were about to reach the shore, a loud explosion was seen from the house while part of the roof broke, sending several pieces of debris flying. Jill. What the heck is going on? She said, confused, watching as several mold creatures that were following them stopped following them and headed towards the house. Issei. Your leader is in danger, he said, confused. Clark. Really, but who could put that girl in trouble with the abilities she has? He said, somewhat confused by the situation. Issei. I don't know, but we have to find out. Baker Mansion. We see Evelyn running through the halls of the house while some mold creatures defended her from the Bakers, who were in unrecognizable forms since they had let the infection consume them, taking those mutated and atrocious forms that slowly dismembered the little girl's protectors. Lucas. What's wrong, Evelyn? Don't you want to have fun with us? Isn't that what you wanted? He said in a crazed manner while stretching out his arm, cutting a creature in half. This is Baker. Come on, little one, you don't want to make us angry, said the woman, swinging up and down. Mr. Baker. You know that a good girl always obeys her family, he said seriously while destroying the creatures with his arms. Evelyn. Because I can't have a family, because I can't be like other girls, she said, hidden while she started to cry. Ollie. Come on, Evelyn, don't try to make me angry, you know it won't be nice, he said in a sadistic way very close to where Evelyn was while he had a kind of worm or parasite in his head and dragged his hand that now looked like a strange blade. Albion. You're completely crazy, you can't fall any lower, now you became one of those damn creatures, you really can't lose your honor anymore, he said in the albino's mind. Ollie. Shhhh, be quiet, lizard. I'm not like those things. I'm much more. I'll show them all. The world. The factions will all fall before me. He said with complete madness while Evelyn watched as he spoke to himself. Albion. If you completely lost your mind, he said seriously. Ollie, shut up, come on Evelyn, come on, it's time for us to have fun, he said madly. Lucas. Volley, she's not here, maybe she went out through a window, he said seriously. Ollie. And if you think that, then what the hell are you waiting for? Go and look for her, he said hysterically. At that moment the two left the place, leaving the little girl relieved who could only sob listening to how her creatures gave their lives for her, and in a certain way they were the only ones she could consider her family, while the Bakers along with Volley were getting ready to leave, but someone knocked down the door. Ollie. Isee said in shock, seeing the brown-haired boy who was in the same situation as Volley. Issei. Volley, he said as his blood began to boil remembering everything that happened. Clark. Volley, isn't it? He couldn't continue because the brown-haired boy activated his armor and shot out at the albino. Claire. Isee screamed worriedly watching as the Bakers began to surround the brown-haired boy to help the albino. Clark. Claire, take care of Rebecca, the rest of us can help, he said as he started shooting, catching the Bakers' attention. Ollie. Kill them, I'll take care of it, he said seriously while his blade grew a little more. The battle between the Bakers and the agents quickly began. On one hand, Clark began to battle against Mr. Baker, who was trying to give him one of his brutal blows. On the other hand, Jill began to fight with Lucas, who attacked with everything without holding back, while in the most even battle was Mrs. Baker, who faced Alexia, who was in her mutated form. Issei. You don't know how long I've waited for this moment, he said while throwing a punch that sent Volley flying, who quickly got back up. Ollie. Not as much as I knew I had to kill you, instead of letting you live, said as Isee clashed his fist against his blade. Issei. In sin you will bear the penance, he said while attacking him with everything. Draigg. What's wrong, Albion? You won't say anything, he said from the booster gear. Albion. It's good that you're alive, Red. Please kill this bastard and free me from this suffering. He said pleadingly from the wings that briefly appeared on the albino's back. Ollie. Damn traitor lizard, I swear I'll find a way to make you pay, he spoke furiously. Issei. So the white guy was never in cahoots with you, he said while headbutting him. Draigg. You know, I would make fun of you, Albion. You who boasted of having the strongest bearer in history turned out to be a despicable being and a disgrace to the dragons, but Isee taught me that we can all make mistakes, but the important thing is to be able to redeem our mistakes, something that you could do, I speak sincerely. Ollie. And how will they do it? Even if I can't use that idiot, your friends will soon be killed, and when they come the four of us will kill you, he said completely crazy, while Isee managed to see how Clark and Jill had complications in their confrontations. Everyone saw how several creatures launched themselves against the Bakers, while Evelyn was directing the creatures from the stairs on the second floor. Ollie. Damn brat, furious scream. Evelyn. I won't let you win, damn it, she said angrily. Clark. She's Evelyn, he said incredulously as he watched a girl receiving a brutal blow from Father Baker, who made him break the floor, making him fall into a kind of basement. Jill Claire Clark, they screamed in terror. Clark. Ma, that damn bastard is going to pay for this. He couldn't continue because he saw a dead girl next to a briefcase and some papers. Mia Winters. If someone finds this, they will know that my mission failed, and now the biological weapon E001 known as Evelyn is on the loose, and it is a practically unstoppable weapon. The only way to stop it is by creating a serum. All the ingredients are in this briefcase. There are also the ingredients to create the necrotoxin E to completely destroy Evelyn. If you find this, please end this nightmare, but first don't blame Evelyn for what she is. Deep down she's just a girl who only wanted. The dark-haired man couldn't finish reading the note because a photograph of Evelyn fell to the ground. Clark. A family. A decision that changes lives. We can see a battlefield in the middle of the Baker house, while the BSAA agents along with Alexia and Evelyn fought against the Bakers and a deranged volley Lucifer, who despite not using the power of Albion, maintained a very even fight with Isee, who desperately tried to hit him with all his power. Issei. I'll kill you once and for all, I swear, damn it, he said, giving him a brutal blow to the stomach. Ollie. Puig, what's wrong, Hyoudou, are you still hurt because your hitches and the stupid leaders preferred me, he said, getting up and starting to run against him. Issei. I don't care about those idiots and those bores in the least. What I will never forgive you for was the fact that you took me away from my loved ones, he said furiously, beginning to throw a shower of punches too fast for the albino to dodge. Albion. Now you have no escape, he will kill you, said in the albino's mind. Ollie. He will never kill me because he will never be better than me, euphoric shout. Issei. You're wrong, Volley. I've always been better than you, he said, giving him a dragon shoot in the face, sending him flying. Draigg. Come on, Isee, let's not give him a break, he said seriously. Issei. Of course not, today I will kill Volley Lucifer. On the other hand, we can see how the black-haired man ran through the basement of the house, followed by Father Baker, who went down to finish the job, while he carried the briefcase holding it as if his life depended on it. Mr. Baker. Come on brat, stop running, soon you and your friends will be our ally, he couldn't continue because the black-haired boy took advantage of the environment to jump and give him a double kick, sending him to the ground. Clark. You're not the first creature I've faced, so don't get too confident, idiot, he said as he threw some boxes at him while he opened the briefcase, seeing 10 syringes with a strange green liquid, but one of them was different from the others. Clark. I guess this must be necrotoxin E, he said, taking the syringe that was different. Mr. Baker. Ah, damn you unhappy, he couldn't continue because the boy took a syringe and stabbed him in the head. Clark. I wonder what will happen to someone who has been completely consumed by the virus, he said, seriously watching the man or what was left writhe in pain. Mr. Baker. Damn, he stopped talking when he dried completely and remained static. Clark. You ended up like the others, what a disappointment, he said calmly while breaking the body with a bullet. While upstairs the battle continued. Now it was more even because of Evelyn's creatures, to the point that Alexia had already completely burned the lady of the house, who in her final form could do nothing against her, while Jill continued in her battle to the death with Lucas, who did not seem to give any respite. Jill. Alexia, go find Clark, she said while dodging the attacks. Alexia. I think I should fight him and you should look for Redfield, but if that's what he wants, fine, she said, returning to her first mutant stage. Clark. You don't need to look for me, he said, appearing through a door. Alexia. You are fast, where is your muscular friend, she said curiously. Clark. Let's say here and dry, but that doesn't matter where that girl is, he said seriously. Alexia. If you mean the biological weapon, it's in the kitchen helping Jill against the last mutant, but why are you looking for it? You found a way to stop it, she said seriously. Clark. Yes, even though I wouldn't want to now that I know why it is like that, he said thoughtfully. Alexia. Don't tell me that now you have entered into an emotional dilemma of what to do, she said seriously. Clark. She lived in solitude all her life and never knew what it was like to be a girl, she never knew what it was like to make friends, to have a family, she only knew a laboratory and that it is a weapon, something that will simply be thrown away in the end, he said as he began to run, followed by the woman. Lucas. Come on you damn brat, come and face me yourself, don't use your damn creatures, he said angrily, trying to get rid of Jill and Mold's creatures. Jill. You have no dignity wanting to hurt a little girl, you're not a man, she said seriously while shooting him. Lucas. You know very well that she is not a girl, she is a monster worse than me, a despicable being that must be exterminated, he said seriously, hitting Jill, making her step back while the girl shed small tears. Clark. The only monster here is that bastard Lucifer, and you hitches, he said, falling on his back, injecting a dose of the cure. Lucas. Damn you, you made me burn, he couldn't continue because Jill stood in front of him pointing a shotgun at him. Jill. Goodbye bastard, she said, shooting him and blowing off half his body. Alexia. I like the way you kill enemies, she said, amused. Evelyn. It's over, isn't it? She said with her gaze downcast while the three looked at her and Jill pointed the shotgun at her. Jill. Damn, we still don't know how to stop it, she couldn't continue because the black-haired man started talking. Clark. Calm down, we won't hurt you. I know what you've been through. Being born and treated like a weapon, locked away in solitude, isolated from others, must have been horrible. No one deserves to live like that. He said with some sadness, surprising the blonde, who didn't know what her partner was saying. Evelyn. It was hell. I just wanted to be like everyone else. I wanted to go to school, have friends, get home and have your family greet you with a smile, receive hugs that she couldn't continue because she was overcome with tears. Clark. I know it's hard but things can change, he said understandingly. Evelyn. But like me I am a monster, she said with pain and sadness. Clark. For me you are not, you are just a little girl who has suffered and only needs a home, a real home, and that is why you would like to be my daughter, he said, surprising the three present. Evelyn. You're serious, she said while her eyes showed a beautiful shine at the sight of the three agents. Clark. I have never been so serious in my entire life, and he couldn't continue because the girl interrupted him. Evelyn. Dad, she screamed with happiness while hugging him and couldn't stop crying. Clark. SHH, calm down, you'll see, everything will change, I promise. Well, I'm not married, so you'll have to wait to have a mother, he said, somewhat nervously. Jill. Alexia. Of course not, they spoke at the same time, confusing the boy. Clark. Sorry, I speak confused. Alexia. It is more than clear that I will be your wife, and I also have a virus inside me, so I am the one to be the mother of the little girl, she said, somewhat blushing. Jill. And who do you think you are? I have known Clark for years, and I have a much stronger immune system since I was infected. Plus, I do love Clark, and that is the most important thing in a marriage, she said, blushing. Alexia. And who says that I don't have feelings for him? She said, blushing even more. Clark. What, I speak confused. Evelyn. Dad, I think you have two suitors, she said somewhat curiously. Clark. Hey, listen to me, if everything you say is true because you two won't become my wives, he said nervously. Jill. What and how would that be possible, she said seriously. Alexia. Yes, explain yourself, she said seriously. Clark. The truth is that I got the idea from Isee since he had a harem, obviously I had no idea about having one, but given this situation I think it could be a solution, that's all I'm saying, he said nervously. Exiled. Fine, I accept, she said seriously. Jill. Me too, she said blushing. Clark. Well, if no one else falls in love with me, I think you'll have two moms, he said nervously, looking at the girl. Evelyn. Yes, she shouted happily, hugging the two women who hugged her with joy. Clark. Well, tell me, where is Isee? Couldn't continue because the house began to be destroyed while everyone saw a gigantic creature while Isee flew staring at it. Issei. So this is your true form, Vali, he said looking at the creature. Vali. The court. North American skies. We can see a plane full of fallen angels while Azazel, Penemu and Arena were getting ready for a mission that seemed like extermination, and a black-haired girl was talking on the phone with a big smile, listening to the person on the other end of the line. So you'll be in Washington soon. I hope you have everything ready, said the serious voice. Ada. Of course, I hope you can make it to the party or else it will be very boring, said the black-haired girl in the blue suit. Don't worry, I'll be there, don't worry, he said amused. Ada. Then we'll see each other at Wesker. The fall. The tension could be felt in the atmosphere. The Baker house had been completely destroyed with the transformation of Vali, who was now a gigantic monstrous creature, but who surprisingly maintained control without being consumed by the virus. Issei. Wow, Vali, I think you look more handsome now because you don't go with those hitches for a date. I bet they will accept without sweating, he said, while shooting a dragon shoot. Vali, shut up, I'll kill you, he shouted in a distorted voice. Clark. Evelyn, you can't stop the virus in her body, he said seriously looking at the girl. Evelyn. No, Dad, for some reason I lost control of the virus, she said nervously. Jill. There may be another strain in his body that prevented Evelyn from having control, she said thoughtfully. Clark. But what could cause this, he said seriously. Alexia. Maybe it's the pest, she said seriously. Jill. The strange parasitic viruses that were found in Spain, she said curiously. Alexia. I see that you know these are very dangerous things. When we kill that bastard we have to be protected so as not to get infected, she said seriously. Clark. Well then it's time to fight, he said loading his weapon. Issei. Ah, the brown-haired boy screamed with fury while unleashing a tremendous blow that knocked down Vali. Draigg. Come on mate, we have to kill that bastard, he said seriously. Clark. We support you, Isee, we are ready, he said from below looking at the brown-haired boy. Issei. Thanks guys, let's go ahead and kill Volley Lucifer. The SAA, Washington, D.C. We see a plane landing and several people were coming out, including Rias Gremory and company, accompanied by Murayama, being greeted by Helena Harper, who looked confused at the redeed and her companions. Helena. Miss Murayama, nice to see you. I'm sorry for the indiscretion, but who are your companions? She said curiously. Murayama. The pleasure is mine, Agent Harper, they were schoolmates who are looking for a person who is here, she said calmly. Helena. And if it's not bothering you could tell me who it is, maybe I can help find her, she said curiously. Rias. His name is Iseei Hyoudou, she said nervously. Helen. Isee, you know Isee, she said curious but a little surprised. Rias. You know him, she said with hopes of seeing him again like the others. Helena. Yes, but right now he is not here in Washington, he is on a mission, she said calmly. Rias. What but in dawn she couldn't continue because strong explosions occurred throughout the city causing great destruction. Kuroka. What's going on? She said confused. Helena. They are attacking us, she said taking out a gun while everyone looked at a plane that opened a hatch, revealing several winged beings with loved ones in their hands. Rias. Fallen angels. Baker House, what remains? We see loud explosions and gunshots as all the agents attack Volley with everything he has, who despite all the attacks kept getting up, causing the brown-haired boy to get angry when he saw that nothing could knock him down, and even more so when he saw how the giant tried to hurt his friends. Issei. Draigg, what do I do? Nothing, we try works, he said nervously. Draigg. We could use Cardinal Crimson mode and go all out with the cannons, but the dragon fell silent, causing confusion for the brown-haired boy. Issei. But what are we going to do? Draigg is talking, he said nervously. Draigg. We will use more than 70% of your magic power and could not continue because Isee spoke. Issei. And all my chances of going to the underworld are reduced, he said disappointed. Draigg. Maybe so, he didn't continue because Isee spoke. Issei. No Draigg, we will use the Cardinal Crimson, he said seriously. Draigg. But he said with pity for his companion. Issei. I know it will take me more work to go to the underworld, but if they truly love me they will wait for me as long as necessary, I know it, he said with a big smile holding his chest. Draigg. It's okay, you know that I will always support you, he said a little happily. Issei. Then go ahead, he said decisively beginning to raise his power level. Ollie. What are you trying to do, damn it, he said angrily. Issei, Draigg, Cardinal Crimson, they roared loudly as their armor began to glow and change shape. Flare. What a beautiful light, she said while watching the battle from a safe place taking care of Rebecca. Clark. I've never seen that shape before, it's incredible, he said seeing the brown-haired boy's new appearance. Issei. Volley Lucifer, for your sins throughout your life I will end it here and now, he said, manifesting his cannons. Volley. You kill me, ha 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 ha, don't make me laugh, you're just a useless loser, you'll always be alone because you don't accept it, he spoke completely lost in madness. Clark. He is not alone, he shouted from the ground while taking something out of his backpack. Jill. You had that with you, she said incredulously seeing the boy with a rocket launcher. Clark. I always carry one, they are very useful. Hey, idiot, he said happily, while Volley lowered his head. Volley. What do you want, human? He said seriously. Clark. Smile, he shouted firing the missile hitting the giant who was disoriented. Alexia. Now the woman shouted as two gigantic vines, one made of plants and the other made of mold, held the giant by the arms. Clark. Alexia, Evelyn, he said in disbelief seeing the two using their powers to the maximum. Flare. Do it now, Isee screamed with all her might. Issei. Die once and for all, Volley Lucifer, Dragon Blast ear, he roared with all his power firing a powerful attack from his cannons against a Volley who still had not recovered. Volley. No, I can't die like this, no, he screamed as the entire attack consumed him, completely erasing him from the face of the earth, but an image came to his mind. An albino woman. Volley. Mother, it was the last thing he said before disappearing. Issei. Goodbye, Volley, he said with melancholy. Draigg. It's over, Isee, he said calmly. Issei. No, Draigg, not yet, I still have to see again, he could not continue because a bright blue sphere appeared in his hand. Albion. Thank you, Hyoudou Isee, for freeing me from that bastard and also offering you an apology. I'm sorry I didn't tell you what I was planning, I speak from the sphere with shame. Issei. Don't worry, Albion, all that is in the past and you had no way to stop that idiot, so don't worry, but tell me what you'll do now, he said curiously. Albion. I really don't know how the world is. I think sleeping until a new carrier appears will take me a long time, but I think it's for the best since I don't think I'll find a good carrier right now, he said thoughtfully. Issei. I think it's down, he said starting to descend. Flare. Issei, that was amazing, she said happily as everyone gathered. Issei. Thank you, but not all the credit is mine, you also helped, he said calmly, his armor disappearing. Clark. Hey buddy, what's that? He said curiously. Issei. This is Albion, your partner, he said happily as he touched him with the sphere and it shone as it entered his body. Clark. Buddy, what are you talking about? He couldn't continue because some blue wings appeared. Albion. He's an interesting boy. I think he could be a good carrier, he said thoughtfully. Clark. I see, what is this, he said without understanding. Issei. Congratulations, you are now the hacker Yuku. Danger in Washington. No one present understood what was happening. They only knew that mysterious blue wings appeared on the black-haired boy's back and a voice came out of them, talking calmly with Isee, who was the only one who knew what was happening. Clark. Come on, Isee, can you give us an explanation of what's going on here? He said seriously. Issei. Okay, the being inside you is Albion, the White Dragon Emperor, Draigg's rival. After the death of the idiot Vali, he was free and could look for a new bearer. I gave him the idea that you would be his new bearer, he said as if nothing had happened. Clark. So that makes me a supernatural being, he said confused. Issei. More or less certainly what is happening with the bioweapon known as Evelyn, he said somewhat alertly looking at the girl. Clark. She's my daughter now, and would you mind just calling her by her name? I don't like people referring to her as a bioweapon or things like that. Issei. Hey friend, are you sure knowing about his capabilities and what he can do? Don't you think it would be dangerous? He couldn't continue because the black-haired man spoke. Clark. Issei, I never questioned your decisions all this time, I even supported you by going to Asgard to save that yokai girl, now I ask you not to question my decisions, he said with a very serious look. Issei. Okay, my friend, it's only fair that you have supported me in my madness, now it's my turn, he said calmly. Clark. Thank you, well before we go I think we should get vaccinated against the virus that Evelyn has, and I also think this would help Rebecca, he said, more calmly taking out a briefcase and passing a syringe to each of the agents and an extra one to Claire who had Rebecca in her hands. Issei. How long will it take us to return to Washington, he said, well everyone was injected with serum. Jill, about 12 hours approximately, she said calmly. VIP. An alarm began to sound, realizing that it was Issei's communicator, seeing that he had a message from Alomar with an urgent character. Issei. Now what do you want? He said curiously opening the message. Clark. Who is it, he said curiously. Isee. It's a video of Shiva, I'll put it, he said curiously. Shiva. Hyoudou, we are in a critical situation, you and your team must return as soon as possible, we are being attacked by strange people with black wings, said to be the fallen angels, we need help, please return, the brunette spoke in the message, while explosions and gunshots could be heard in the background. Clark. What did fallen angels just say? He said incredulously. Issei. Damn it, this can't be, furious scream. Claire. Issei, calm down please, she said nervously. Issei. How do you want me to calm down? Those bastards are attacking our home where my little ones are, and I'm fed up with this damn thing. I don't know what to do. Even with the thrusters, it will take me hours to get there, he said with frustration. Albion. Don't forget something, Isee, he said, the wings appearing again. Draigg. It's true, now we're both here, we could combine the magic you have left with the one Albion can use, we could create a transportation circle big enough to return to Washington, he said seriously. Issei. They mean it, he said hopefully. Draigg. Yes, but let's not waste any more time, you and Clark hold hands, and the rest hold on to them, he said seriously. Clark. Come on Isee, I know we can do it, he said seriously as the two held hands and began to be covered by a red and blue aura, and then their armor appeared and they all held them. Issei. If we go home. The SAA headquarters, Washington, D.C. The capital of the United States was complete madness, explosions, shots, spears of light, everything was a battlefield where humans fought hard against the fallen angels and the infected who came with them, while Rias and the others helped with their magic. Rias. Even though this is crazy, this is exciting, she said while killing two angels with her power of destruction. Murayama. You see, the life of us humans is usually full of emotions, he said while changing the magazine of his gun. Koneko. That smell is familiar, said the lowly somewhat seriously. Kuroka. Shirin, what's wrong, she said confused. Koneko. It can't be. At that moment a spear of light fell in front of them. I can't believe they're alive, said a voice from above. Rias. You screamed furiously, seeing Azazel, Penemu and Irina up above. Azazel. But look, it's the little Grimory girl, tell me where you are, your idiot brother, he said seriously. Rias. In hell where you should be, she said angrily. Ross. How is it possible that you have legs if, as far as we know, Gabriel amputated them, she said incredulously looking at the brunette. Irina. if you're right, that stupid little dove took them from me, but thanks to a very special person I was able to get them back," and she couldn't continue because a spear of light hit her, sending her to the ground, surprising everyone. "Gabriel. If you got them back I'll cut them off again," he said madly. "Azazel. They are also alive," he said, seeing the pair of angels in front of him. "Michael. Because I'm not surprised that in a madness like this you are present," he said coldly, looking at the fallen man who looked at him expressionless. "Azazel. Oh, until you take out your claws, but I think it's too late," he said angrily, launching himself directly at him. "Mikhail. Now I will show you what the difference is between us," he said seriously, launching himself at him. "Irina. This time you'll pay for it, you bucking pigeon," she said furiously, going to attack Gabriel, who didn't hesitate for a second to attack her. "Enemy. Pair of idiots, they forgot the mission." She couldn't continue because Kuroka appeared at her side, giving her a powerful blow that sent her to the ground. "Kuroka. Do you think we forgot that you also betrayed Isee?" she said seriously. "Rias. Murayama, you and Agent Harper go and help the people, we'll take care of these crows," she said seriously. "Murayama. Take care, you have a mission to accomplish," he said as he began to run alongside the agent. While on the other hand we see a woman with a red jacket and black pants watching all the chaos while killing one or another fallen that was in front of her, but paying some attention to a black-haired woman in a blue suit who was identical to her. Ada. So it was true, there is a cheap copy of my. While this was happening in an area a little far from the battle, we saw a magic circle appear leaving Isee and company, seeing how everything was in chaos, worrying the brown-haired boy who did not know how his daughters were. "Issei. What is this?" he said confused. "Clark. That doesn't matter, we have to go get your daughters and then we'll take care of this," he said seriously. "Issei. Yes, walking," he said, starting to run. While they began to make their way through the place, the battle between the Gremory and angels against the fallen continued to surprise the girls when they saw the great resistance that some enemies had and more Azazel and company. "Rias. What the hell is happening, how have you changed so much?" she said incredulously. "Enemy? Surprised stupid girl, we are better now that we received a gift from Miss Wong," she said proudly, while two more eyes appeared on top of the others. "Rias. You're infected," she said in shock. "Ooh. The loud explosion shook the place, and then a gigantic creature appeared before everyone, causing a little fear in Rias and the others when they saw its appearance. "Ross. What the heck is that?" she said incredulously. "Azazel, hail to the almighty Ustanak," he said madly. Everyone could see how two very well-known armors hit against that creature and made it retreat a few meters. "Issei. But what the heck is that thing?" he said seriously, seeing where the creature went while his companions arrived. "Rias. Isee said with tears. "Issei. Rias. Reunion." Silence fell. Isee couldn't believe what his eyes were seeing. The woman he loved so much was standing there in front of him, and she wasn't alone. The other women he still carried in his heart were also there. He practically didn't care about the situation they were in. The only thing that had his attention were his girls. "Rias. Issei, it's really you," she said while running towards him, starting to cry. "Issei. I can't believe you're here, you're really here," he said without holding back, kissing the Redeed, who didn't hesitate to reciprocate. "Rias. You don't know how much I missed you," she said, separating from the kiss and hugging him. "Issei. And you to me," he said while returning the hug. "Koneko. Senpai," she said a little jealous. "Issei. Koneko, girls," he said while hugging the three and giving them a light kiss. "Ross. Since you arrived so quickly, they told us you were on a mission," he said very happily but with some tears. "Issei. Well, it's a long story." Boo couldn't continue because Kuroka spoke. "Kuroka. What is he doing here?" she said angrily while the four of them looked at the white armor. "Rias. What are you doing here, Volley?" she said, releasing her power of destruction. "Clark. Hey, I'm not Volley," he said nervously when he saw the four of them looking at each other. "Issei. If he is my friend Clark Redfield, then I will introduce them in a better way," he said, nervously confusing the girls. "Azazel. But look at the little pervert, I'm surprised that you're alive," he said seriously while he and his companions rose into the air. "Issei. Wow, you had to get infected so you could show your face, how pathetic," he said seriously, activating his armor again. "Michael. No, Isee, he is my rival," he said seriously while standing in front of him. "Clark. I think we should take him at his word. We should take care of this matter," he said seriously while looking at the Ustanak. "Issei. Well, Claire, please go get Sherry and Kunu," he said seriously. "Rias. Kunu she's here," she said confused. "Issei. As I said, long story, please go," he said looking at the brunette. "Claire. Fine, but take care of yourself," she said as she started to run. "Clark. Jill Evelyn, go with her," he said seriously. "Jill. Okay, let's go little one," she said, starting to run. "Alexia. Do you mind if I join the party?" she said entering her mutated form. Rias. But what she said confused. Issei. I have to repeat it to you he said nervously. Azazel. Die he screamed madly as the Ustanak began to run against the group of boys, but quickly the two boys launched themselves against him, ramming him. Enemu. First these hitches, now the damned celestial dragon she couldn't continue because a vine wrapped around her body and began to whip her from side to side. Alexia. I'm sorry but one of those bastards is my husband she said seriously. Kuroka. Maybe she is infected, but I like her she said creating a senjutsu pod and throwing it at some of the fallen ones. Issei. This trash is nothing compared to what we have faced he said, transforming a part of his armor into a giant fist, hitting the bow with everything. Clark. Speak for yourself, I'm getting used to this he said, still in his armor, taking out a shotgun. Albion vanishing shoot the dragon's voice resounded as a powerful shot came out of the shotgun, knocking down the Ustanak. Clark. That was great he said amazed. Albion. Since you are good with weapons I thought you would like this, but don't use it too much, or the wear will be greater he said seriously. Issei. Draigg could you do that he said incredulously. Draigg. Yes he said as if nothing happened. Issei. Then why did you never do it angry shout. Draigg. You never asked for it he said nonchalantly. Clark. Guys stop fighting we have a battle to win he said seriously. Issei. Yes, sorry. While they continued with their problems, the others took care of the fallen who came to support their leader, and on the other hand, the battle between Michael against Azazel and Gabriel against Irina, things were very close. Michael. I can't believe you were my friend he said seriously while stabbing a spear of light into Azazel's arm. Azazel. Don't come to me with your whining now he said kicking him and then taking out the spear. Michael. What kind of monster are you? He said angrily watching how he regenerated. Azazel. One of the best showing his second pair of eyes. Gabriel. I will kill you for what you did to him Isee she screamed upset while flying at full speed. Irina. But what are you saying? You also turned your back on him and you know that I think it's the best decision I've ever made in my entire life she said totally crazy showing her 4 eyes. Rias. You only proved to be a bore who never deserved the title of angel he said behind her, hitting her, sending her to the ground. Irina. Ugh, but if we have the quartet of idiots, they know her love for that idiot, it disgusts me so much that I want to vomit she said amused. Rias. Don't insult Ice again she couldn't continue because a light passed at high speed hitting the brunette. Gabriel. Don't get involved Gremory, it's my fight, not yours she said angrily, struggling in the air after falling. Irina. You're tiring me out and I'm getting angry she said as her arm deformed and turned into a blade made of muscles piercing Gabriel's chest. Michael Gabriel terrified scream watching the dove fall to the ground while bleeding to death. Azazel. Why are we in such a hurry? Let's enjoy the show, don't you think? He said amused while holding the angel tightly. Michael. I already understood that attacking you with the spears will not do any good, so I will have to bet everything to kill you he said angrily releasing his wings. Azazel. Yes, and what will you do? He said confidently. Michael. He'll take us to hell he said, matching the black-haired man's grip and beginning to rise into the air. Azazel. Damn what are you trying to do? He said seriously trying to free himself. Michael. You know very well that I love fireworks he said, starting to release more and more light. Azazel. Damn you he didn't continue when he saw Azazel's determined look. Michael. Sorry Isee. Boom. Both leaders exploded with force, shaking the place with the force of the detonation, leaving those present more than surprised by Michael's sacrifice. Enemu. You idiot trusted her, and that's why you're dead she couldn't continue, because a vine broke her in half making her full dead. Alexia. The only confident idiot was you she said seriously. Irina. TSK you two useless people, I can't believe you're so incompetent, but it doesn't matter, given my performance, miss she couldn't continue because in a quick movement, Gabriel, using a spear of light, decapitated her. Gabriel. I did it he said falling to the ground. Issei. Gabriel said nervously running to see her. Rias. Issei what happened to that thing she said nervously. Clark. We'll drop a building on top of it, I think that'll be enough for now he said nervously. Gabriel forgive me Isee for not being able to come to our wedding he said while holding the brown-haired boy's face with tears. Issei. Don't worry, you are and will be my wife he said sadly. Gabriel. Thank you for all the beautiful moments I spent with you. Forgive me for everything I did to you. You don't know how much I regret it he said weakly. Issei. Calm down, you don't have to apologize he said trying to stay strong. Gabriel. Rias-chan girls please take care of him he doesn't know when to stop getting into trouble, he said with a happy smile, but with tears. Rias. Don't worry, we'll do it she said sadly. Gabriel. Well, I'll leave it to you now. I have to catch up with my brother, he said with a big smile, closing his eyes for the last time. Issei. I hope you both meet your father, he said with his head down. Clark. Come on bro, it's time to go. He couldn't continue because some footsteps started to sound. Wesker. Wow, what a sad scene, said a man in a black suit. Clark. Alexia Wesker, they said with hatred. Wesker. But they are Redfield and Ashford, how cute they are working together, he said seriously. Alexia. Damn you, prepare to die, she said angrily. Wesker. Really, well I say the same thing, after all I bring my new toy, he said seriously. Clark. What toy, he said seriously, becoming alert. Wesker. Tell me something, Redfield, when your brother died, did you find his body, were you able to bury him? He said with a smile. Clark. What the hell are you talking about? He said angrily. Wesker. I'm just saying, why don't we have a family reunion, he said seriously as thick footsteps began to be heard. Clark. No, this is not possible, altered scream. Wesker. Say hello to Chris, he said, revealing a creature that looked similar to a type of bow that Jill faced. Briar. Discoveries. Everything was deathly silent and the tension could be felt in the air, and it was no wonder that Albert Wesker, one of the most despicable beings in the world, had just made his presence felt in Washington, and he was not alone, he came with a prototype nemesis, who was none other than Chris, Clark and Claire's older brother. Wesker. What's wrong? You didn't like my surprise, he said amused. Clark. Ma damn you, I'll kill you, I swear I'll kill you, he screamed furiously, releasing an abysmal amount of power. Issei. Draigg, how can he have so much power if he just became the bearer of Albion, he said confused. Draigg. I don't know, maybe he's going through the same thing you did when he entered Juggernaut drive mode, and thanks to what he's experienced, his body may be more prepared than you were when you did it the first time, he said seriously. Issei. Albion has to calm him down, he said nervously. Wesker. Oh, you got stronger, you'll be a good test, kill them, he said seriously, while the nemesis raised his arm showing a minigun. Issei. Be careful, he shouted seriously as the bow began to shoot. Everyone except Clark covered themselves as best they could, since the boy felt the bullets coming from the front, and the surprising thing is that those bullets did go through the armor, causing the boy to start bleeding. Clark. Albion, how the hell did you get through the armor? He said confused as he got on his knees. Albion. I don't know exactly, but I can feel traces of magic in the bullets, he said incredulously. Issei. How is it possible, he said seriously, standing next to the boy. Wesker. You see, I will gladly explain to you. This new prototype nemesis was not only created with Chris's body, but was also complemented with parts of supernatural beings, such as Ajuka Beelzebub, Euclid Lucifuge, a couple of fallen angels, and the idiot who taught me everything about the supernatural world, Rizivum Lucifer, he said amused. Issei, what incredulous cry. Raphia. You used my brother to create that thing, she said angrily, because despite everything he was her brother. Albion. That thing is a bucking abomination, he said seriously. Wesker. No, this is the masterpiece, the perfect being created from humans and supernatural beings, he said with superiority. Issei. If things are like this, we must stop him, he said seriously, regenerating his armor. Clark. Go away, Isee, he said seriously. Issei. You're crazy, I won't leave you alone. He couldn't continue because the black-haired man spoke. Clark, get out, this is my battle, serious shout. Isee. TSK, okay, let's go, he said resignedly. Rias. Are you sure? She said nervously. Issei. Yes, he decided it, and I won't be able to make him change his mind, but you idiot, you better not die, he said, starting to run with the others, leaving Alexia and Clark alone against Nemesis and Wesker. Clark. Don't worry, I'm not going to die today. Residential buildings. We can see two women and a girl running to a room, knocking on the door desperately until someone finally opened the door, seeing that there were two girls who were somewhat nervous about the situation. Claire, Sherry, they are fine, she said, hugging the two little ones. Sherry, Claire, Okasama said, reciprocating the hug. Kunu. Miss Claire, what's going on, where's Dad? She said worried. Claire. He's taking care of some business and he sent us to get you. Come, we have to go, she said a little hurriedly, seeing several explosions nearby. Sherry. Okay, she said nervously as the two grabbed a backpack. Jill. We have to hurry, she said seriously, watching a fallen angel approaching and shooting at her. Kunu. That was a fallen one, she said confused. Claire. It's a long story, let's go, she said as everyone started running. Sherry. Who are you? She said curiously as she looked at the black-haired girl. Evelyn. My name is Evelyn, and well, I couldn't continue because Claire spoke. Claire. If everything goes according to plan, she will be your cousin, she said, looking at the two girls who looked at her confused. Jill. A missile, she screamed as she saw a missile coming directly towards them. Ooh, Issei and the rest could see how the missile hit the building causing it to fall, while he could feel a strong pain knowing that Claire, Sherry, Kunu, Jill and Evelyn were in that place. Issei. This can't be. It can't be. He screamed, falling to his knees. Rias. Issei please calm down she said worriedly. Issei. It's all my fault, I should have come, I had to protect them he said as tears began to fall from his eyes. Kuroka. What is that? She said confused. Everyone could see a giant sphere that seemed to be made of mold that began to fall from the rubble of the place and slowly began to open, revealing the 5 safe and sound, although 4 looked at everything confused. Issei. Girls are fine he said while running and hugging the 3. Claire. Yes, I see, calm down, we're fine, but I don't know how she said confused. Jill. Yes, I know, thank you, daughter she said while hugging the brunette who just smiled. Issei. Thanks Evelyn he said smiling. Evelyn. You're welcome, Uncle Isee she said with a big smile. Jill. By the way, where's Clark? She said curiously. Kuroka. Now that I see it well where is Grafia she said curiously. Issei. They are fighting with Nemesis. With Clark. The fierce battle could be seen between Clark and Nemesis, who showed to have a monstrous resistance, since no matter what the boy or Alexia tried, whenever they knocked down the bow he always got up and continued. Alexia. This is one of the worst things I've ever seen she said, while throwing her vines that were easily reduced by the minigun's bullets. Clark. Albion he said seriously, standing in front of the woman, protecting her from the bullets. Albion. Divide the white man's voice resounded as the bullets disappeared and the boy's power increased. Wesker. Try as you may, you will not be able to defeat my greatest creation he said arrogantly. Grafia. We'll see she said from above, throwing several ice spears that hit the creature squarely, remaining embedded in its body. Wesker. Damn demon furious scream. Grafia. Now you will know why I am known as the most powerful queen she said, seriously placing her hand on the floor, causing everything in front of her to freeze. Clark. What madness he said seeing how Nemesis was completely turned into ice. Alexia. Let's not waste time she said seriously while throwing several vines. Clark. You're right Albion he said taking out his shotgun and shooting. Nemesis cry I roaring, breaking the ice and using his weapon as a shield, receiving all the damage on his arm. Wesker. Wow, I see that you are good, I will leave you with him, I have things to attend to, see you later he said, starting to walk, turning his back on the boys. Clark. Damn Wesker, don't run away, coward he shouted furiously, launching himself at him, but Nemesis stopped him with a strong blow. Wesker. I won't waste any more time. With Issei. They all walked through the streets finishing off any threat that was in front of them, and we also saw a very upset Julie Claire, knowing that Nemesis had returned and not only that, but the body that was used to do it was Chris's. Issei. Continue down this street, turn left, 2 blocks later you will reach a shelter, you will be safe there he said seriously. Rias. You won't come with us she said nervously and worried. Issei. I don't have to go back and support Clark, I know he'll need my help he said seriously, loading his weapon. Jill. I'll go with you she said seriously. Issei. Of course I don't know that you faced a nemesis in the past, but this is totally different now we are talking about the fact that now it is part supernatural he said seriously. Rias. Then we will go she said seriously. Issei. Of course I haven't seen them again and I won't let anything bad happen to them, that's why I want them to go to the shelter where they'll be safe he said seriously. Rias. And you think that we will just sit back and do nothing while you are risking your life Issei, this is not like before. This is not about Issei, the powerful security who comes and fixes everything. No, now we are here to help. You don't have to carry all the weight she said holding her hand. Wow so this is the powerful security it's not as amazing as I thought said a voice. Issei. Who is it impossible, you're dead he said seeing a woman with Asian touches. Rias. Issei you know her she said confused. Issei. Yes she is Ada Wong he said nervously. Claire. Ada Wong, the woman from Raccoon City, but you said you saw her die she said confused. Issei. No I don't understand how you are alive he said confused looking at the woman who didn't say anything. Ada. Maybe because she's not Ada said a woman identical to the one in front of Isee, but this one was wearing a red and black outfit. Issei. What 2 Adas don't understand he couldn't continue because the woman in the red suit spoke. Ada. Maybe I need to refresh your memory. The beginning of madness. We see an incredulous Isee after what had just happened and a group of girls who were boiling with fury after a woman with Asian tints had kissed a brown-haired man while a woman identical to the one who kissed the brown-haired man looked at her with hatred. Rias. Isee who the hell is this hitch and why did she kiss you she screamed furiously. Issei. Well I mean, she is what was the question. he said, extremely nervous. Rias, hi, do Isee stop being stupid, she screamed, completely annoyed like the others. Jill. Does anyone else feel uncomfortable about the situation? She said with a nervous smile as her daughter raised her hand. Ada. Wow, this must be the girl you told me about, she said with her arms crossed. Issei. Yes, she is Rias, and well, Rias, she is Ada Wong, a person I met in Raccoon City, he said nervously. Ada. Why are you so nervous? Do you need another kiss? She said in a flirtatious way, making the Gremory and Claire boil with fury. Issei. Ada, wait, he said, holding the woman by the shoulders. Ada too. Cough cough, you're forgetting something, don't you think? She said seriously. Ada. So my copy, she said seriously. Ada too. Damn, the one you call copy, she said furiously, taking out a gun and starting to shoot. I see. Don't even think about it, he said seriously, standing in front and repelling all the bullets. Ada too. I will get revenge, she said, starting to run. Issei. Wait, he won't escape, he couldn't continue because the black-haired girl spoke. Ada. Go help your friend, I'll take care of her, she said, giving him another kiss. Rias. Damn, she did it again, she said, full of jealousy. Ada. Don't be too confident, girl, or Isee will be mine alone, she said, starting to run. Koneko. I don't like that woman, she said seriously. Kuroka. There are two of us now, she said, the same as her sister. Issei. Well, we don't have to stand still, we have to move, he said nervously. Rias. Don't try to change the subject now, tell us who that is, she said, full of jealousy. Murayama. Guys, it's good to see you, he said, arriving with Harper, Alomar and Chambers. Issei. Hello Murayama, Alomar, what's the situation? He said seriously. Shiva. The infected and fallen contingents are being repelled and exterminated by 45%. It will take a few hours to finish them off if everything goes well, but we have reports that there are 2 people trying to get to the CCV laboratory, she said seriously. Ross. CCV, what is that, she said, confused. Helena. Virus Control Center. That's where all the strains of each virus known so far are located, she said seriously. Issei. We must prevent it at all costs, he said seriously. Helena. That's why we came prepared, she said seriously, showing a backpack with weapons and ammunition. Murayama. Maybe they are supernatural beings, but it doesn't hurt to bring something to shoot with, she said seriously, looking at Rias and the others. Rias. I think you're right, as each of the 4 took a weapon. Issei. They look tougher, he said, seeing the 4 with their weapons. Rias. Let's go get those sons of hitches. On the other hand, in the city. We see 3 people carrying out a tough battle against an abominable being who had modified his body, becoming stronger, causing more difficulty for his opponents. Albion. Why are you holding back, he said seriously in the black-haired man's mind. Clark. No, I don't know what you're talking about, he said tiredly. Albion. Every time you launch into the attack you don't hit that thing with all your strength, you must not hold back or it will kill you, he said seriously. Clark. How can you ask me to do that, he's my brother, he said sadly. Albion. Listen to me carefully, that thing is not your brother died, that damn Wesker only used his body to create that thing, and if you really care about your brother or if you care about me, destroy that thing and let his body rest, he said seriously. Clark. I will, he shouted, releasing a large amount of power. The 2 women began to see how everything around the boy began to break, and some things fell, and a strange light began to surround him, becoming so intense that a huge pillar of light was created. Alexia. What the hell are you doing? Your body won't be able to withstand so much power, it's not used to it, she said nervously. Clark. I don't care, I'll do it at any cost, he said, totally determined. Alexia. Do you not care about us? She said sadly. Albion. Ready boy, do it, he said seriously. Clark, Omega Blaster, he shouted as he put his hands together and launched a powerful punch that went directly against the bow that didn't seem to care. Nemesis. Grower here roared loudly, stretching out his hands to stop the attack. Clark. Goodbye brother, he said as the sphere of power touched the Nemesis. Everyone around could see a huge explosion in the place where they were fighting, alarming some for the good of the 3, but others for what could have happened in the city and what caused that phenomenon. Murayama. What the heck was that? Said the girl, worried. Issei. It was Clark, he said, still in shock. Claire. This can't be, she screamed, upset, while Evelyn hugged Jill, who was holding her chest. Issei. Calm down, we shouldn't act like this, we have to go and see what happened, he said seriously. Claire. Yes, let's go, she said as everyone started running. Issei. Idiot, you better not be dead. Near the CCV. We can see Wesker walking calmly through the streets while accompanied by a dark-skinned woman who looked surprised at the explosion that had just happened, but the blonde remained calm and a small smile appeared on his face. Excella. I think one less piece of trash, don't you think? she said with satisfaction seeing the blonde. Wesker? It was more than obvious that he had to make a drastic decision to destroy his beloved brother, he said seriously. Vixella. Now we just need to finish off the security and everything will be ours, she said seriously. Wesker? You mean mine, he said, moving at high speed, injecting something into the woman's neck. Vixella. What did you do to me? What did you do to me? She screamed angrily as she fell to the ground. Wesker? I'm just getting rid of the trash, she said without importance. Vixella. I thought we had a bad deal, Wesker. She couldn't continue because she began to mutate into a strange thing that looked like black vines. Wesker. We'll see if they can take you down. East of the city. We see the two Adas staring at each other while the original had the other cornered, pointing a gun at her while she held a briefcase. Ada. I think the game is over, Miss Carla Radames, she said seriously. Carla, shut up, I am Ada, she screamed furiously. Ada. You're just the pathetic wet desires of that idiot Simon, she said seriously. Carla. I will kill them, I will kill you, and I will be the queen of chaos, she screamed madly while taking out a syringe and injecting herself with something strange. Ada. What the hell, she said as she watched her copy begin to change shape. Ada. This has to be a bucking joke. Divide and conquer. Issei and his group arrived to where Clark, Alexia and Graphia were, seeing how there was a large crater where only a few pieces of the clothing of what was that being known as Nemesis were found, while the black-haired man approached the crater without his armor and with noticeable tiredness. Issei. I see you beat him, he said with some sadness. Clark. That's right, I ended up with the one who was once my brother, he said with his head down. Claire Chris, she said as small tears ran down her face. Clark. This is no time for regrets, he said seriously as he stood up. Issei. Hey old man, calm down, you have to take a break, it seems that you can't even stand up, he said somewhat worried. Clark. I'm not in the mood for breaks, I have to kill that son of a hitch, he said seriously as he started to walk. Issei. I know why you want to do this, but you're crazy, you could die, he said angrily while a group of people worried about him. Clark. That doesn't matter to me anymore, I'll die if it's possible, but I'll take it with me. He couldn't continue because several explosions began to happen, capturing everyone's attention, and they could see two bizarre creatures, one was a strange black vine, and the other was a white thing with a giant face. Ross. But what the heck are those things? She said confused while the others prepared their weapons. Issei. Two mutations out of control, he said seriously. Belina. How are we going to do this? She said seriously. Issei. We will form 3 teams, one will be commanded by Jill, another by Claire, the last one will be led by me, some will face each thing, and I along with my group will go to the CCV to stop Wesker, he said seriously. Clark. Wesker is mine, I don't want them to interfere, he said seriously. Alexia. Enough, you are not in condition to fight, you don't understand, he shouted angrily while she, Jill and Evelyn looked at him sadly. Clark. And you don't understand, he couldn't continue because something hit him in the head. Issei. But what, he said incredulously while everyone watched as Graphia was behind him with a shard of crystal that he had hit with. Graphia. I think it was the only way to stop him, don't you think? She said a little nervously. Issei. I guess so, Lucifuge, he said coldly as Evelyn stood next to the black-haired man and wrapped him in her mold vines. Evelyn. We will take care of him, she said calmly while Sherry and Kunu stood by her side. Claire. Girls are safe, she said worried. Sherry. Of course, if not more cute little girls, she said happily while taking out a gun. Kunu showed her 9 tails and Evelyn made a few of her friends appear. Sherry's gun. Issei. Okay, but if anything happens, get out of the city and look for a safe place, he said seriously but somewhat worried. After that the groups were divided into the first group where Jill, Rebecca, Alomar and Helena went against a black creature, in the second group were Claire, Graphia, Ross, and Kuroka went against the white thing, and finally there was the Isee team made up of him, Rias, Koneko and Miyama, dividing to face the different threats that were in the city. 5 minutes later. Claire's team. The first to arrive at their destination were them, meeting an Ada who sneaked through the place and then shot the creature that sometimes took on her exact face but then became deformed again. Ross. You know, we could let him finish you off so you don't get close to Isee, but we know he wouldn't forgive us, she said seriously while shooting. Ada. What are they doing here besides interfering between Isee and me? She said seriously as she arrived where they were. Kuroka. Interfere if you were the one who got involved, Isee loves us and you appear out of nowhere kissing him, she said somewhat annoyed. Ada. It's not my fault that he loves my kisses, she said with superiority. Ross. Unhappy as you are, he couldn't continue because Graphia spoke. Graphia. Ladies, could you discuss and then we'll finish that thing first, then we'll see who stays with Isee, she said seriously taking out a grenade and throwing it at the creature, knocking down some rubble. Claire. You're right. First we have to have a place to live, then we'll take the time for love matters, she said seriously, knowing that she was in that race to be with Isee. Kuroka. Sounds perfect to me, she said seriously, shooting the creature a couple of times and then attacking it with Senjutsu. Ross Ada okay. Jill team. We can see the team placing themselves in specific positions, shooting at different times at some strange glowing spheres that were on their bodies. They were also cautious that Excel's body did not touch them, since they could see how the creature's strange limbs took any body and absorbed it. Elomar. This is complete madness, he said while shooting. Polina. There are two of us now, she said amused. Jill. Let's focus, this is a difficult challenge, but those bastards, as always, have a weak point that they fall for, she said determinedly. Rebecca. Maybe we should find him and soon, because the more bodies he absorbs the bigger he gets, she said nervously. Jill. Well, let's finish her off. Team Issei. Issei and his group arrived at the entrance of the CCV, seeing how the door was broken and part of the facilities were destroyed and corpses were all over the place, causing some nervousness in the girls as they thought about what caused all this and how he could be so ruthless. Rias. This Wesker guy is a monster, she said, seeing the lifeless bodies of the people. Issei. If he is a miserable man, that is why we must kill him as soon as possible, he said seriously. Murayama. Not counting the fact that if it reaches the vault of the Sepas, it would be the end he said it would be. Issei. That's why we must go. He couldn't continue because a voice caught his attention. Commander Hyoudou, is that you? Said a boy in a military suit who was lying on the ground leaning against a wall while bleeding out. Issei. Agent Nivens resist, he said nervously, putting his hand on the boy's neck. Piers. I'm sorry I couldn't stop him, he said tired. Issei. Calm down, we'll stop him. He won't come out alive. Don't worry, just resist, he said nervously, taking out the first aid kit. Piers please stop it, this world can live in peace like before and please take care of Rebecca for me, he said as his pulse dropped. Issei. No, you will live and you will take care of her, he said with desperation. Piers. I'm sorry sir, I'm retiring today, he said as he took a last sigh and closed his eyes. Issei. History will never forget your effort and sacrifice, he said sadly as he laid the agent down and performed a military salute while the girls imitated him. Unauthorized access to the main vault, a voice sounded over the speakers. Isee. Let's go. Quickly the four of them began to run until they descended several levels and finally reached a large room where there was a giant steel door broken in half, finding Wesker, who looked closely at the group. Wesker? But if it's the Securitate, what a big surprise. I thought that idiot Redfield would be the one who would come to fight, he said amused. Issei. Shut up, you damn it, I'll kill you for all the damage you've caused and I'll avenge all those people you killed, starting with Piers, he said, activating his armor. Wesker. Let's play. The fall of madness. The atmosphere could be felt completely tense while Isee stared at Albert Wesker, who stood there as if nothing had happened with his typical arrogant smile, while the gate behind him began to slowly open until after a few seconds it opened. They quickly got back up after that blow they gave each other and began to have a close fight, being observed by the girls who watched the fight with different emotions, especially a certain brunette girl. Murayama. We have to do something, she said nervously. Rias. Let's not let Isee take care of it, she said seriously without looking away. Murayama. But how do you say that? Aren't you worried about Isee? She said seriously. Koneko. You're wrong, Murayama-san. Isee-san, we are very worried, but we understand that this is a personal fight, she said seriously. Murayama. Personal, she said confused. Rias. Yes, since we met Isee when he showed that impetus, that decision, we know that he can face anyone and only dead can they stop him, but as long as his heart keeps beating, he will keep fighting because that's how he is, Isee, she said with shining eyes. Murayama. That's right, Isee. While the girls continued watching the fight, Isee took advantage of a small lapse to kick the blonde, moving him a few meters away so that he could quickly summon a gun and fire several shots that were not very effective because Wesker showed great agility and speed, dodging all the shots. Wesker. It's the best you have, he said, hitting him in the abdomen, breaking the brown-haired boy's armor. Issei. No, but thanks for asking, he said, returning the blow in the same area. Draigg. What kind of being is he? How could he break the armor in one hit? He said seriously. Issei. I don't know, but this got interesting, he said seriously, rebuilding the armor. Wesker. Come on, don't tell me you were surprised, he said seriously. Issei. A little, but let's see what you can do to this, he said seriously, firing a dragon shoot. Wesker. Seriously, this is pathetic, he said seriously while catching the dragon shoot with his hands and began to compress it until destroying it. Issei. Impossible, he said in shock. Draigg. What kind of monster are you? He said seriously. Wesker. Didn't you think that Nemesis was the only one I experimented with magic on? He said, amused as an aura between a fallen angel and a demon emerged from his body. Issei. But what the hell did you do? He said in shock upon recognizing a certain aura of a Lucifer. Wesker. I became invincible. City center. We can see Jill's group desperately attacking the reddish orbs that the strange mutation that was once known as Exiled had, but now it was just a monster that absorbs everything in its path. Rebecca. This is bothering me, she said seriously. Helena. You're right, and the worst thing is that we're running out of bullets, she said, leaning against a wall. Elomar. Something's wrong with it, she said seriously, while the thing began to expose its orbs. Jill. It's time to finish her off, she said as she took out the missile launcher. Helena. Where did you get that from? She said incredulously. Jill. A gift from Clark, she said while shooting at one of the spheres, destroying it completely. Rebecca. One less, she said excitedly. Jill. Distract her while I reload, she said as her companions began to run in different directions while shooting. Elomar. Come on, we're close, she said seriously. Helena. Yes, let's go. Jill. Hurry up, she said nervously while dodging an attack from the creature. Jill. That's it, goodbye, she said, firing the second missile. Ooh. The four of them could see how the second sphere was completely destroyed, and seconds later the creature began to fall apart and the remains fell to the floor, leaving the four women to fall to the ground somewhat tired. Jill. Ready now, how will it go for the others? West of the city. We can see Claire and the others running through the different streets of the city, dodging the attacks of the mutated Carla Radames, who did not give them a break for even a single second, causing a rather complicated battle, since they used intelligence rather than strength. Kuroka. At this rate we will run out of bullets, she said frustrated. Claire. I know, she said seriously. Ada. Why don't they use their magic? She said somewhat annoyed. Ross. Of course we ran out of magic and bullets, brilliant idea, she said seriously. Rafia. It's not such a bad idea, she said seriously. Claire. What do you mean? She said confused. Rafia. The anatomy of that thing is not totally solid, it's slimy or something like that, why don't we freeze it? She said seriously. Kuroka. Do you think it will work? She said seriously. Ada. It could be said thoughtfully. Rafia. Ross, you're pretty good. Help me increase the power of the attack. When the attack is completely frozen, the rest will attack it with everything they have. She said seriously as she stood in front of everyone. Ross. Because I should, he said seriously, remembering the past. Rafia. This way you can see Isee faster, she said seriously. Ross. Okay, she said, not very convinced. Carla. Ready to die, she said euphorically with her mutated voice appearing in front of them. Rafia. Now, she screamed, putting her hands on the ground next to the other silver-haired girl, starting to turn everything in her path into ice. Carla. But what is this? She couldn't continue as she froze completely. Kuroka. Our turn, she said, launching her senjutsu attacks while Ada and Claire fired with everything they had, destroying the mutant's body, leaving small fragments of ice that were then destroyed by a multiple attack from Ross. Claire. We did it, we beat her. Inside the CCV. We can see Isee, who looked incredulously at the blonde, who widened his smile more and more, while the girls became quite serious, since they did not know what else this miserable man was hiding, and his current power was quite high. Wesker. Don't tell me you're scared, he said arrogantly. Issei. Not at all, you just surprised me a little, but don't worry, I'm fine, he said seriously while smiling. Wesker. Wow, I thought you would react differently, but I like the fact that you are willing to die, he said seriously. Issei. It's not just that I finally found a real challenge, he said seriously. Wesker like this, he said seriously. Issei. Yes, and now that my girls are here and I no longer need to go to the underworld, I won't have to hold back, he said seriously, clenching his fists. Wesker. Really, then I won't hold back either, he said seriously, while his upper clothing was torn, leaving his chest exposed, but it was full of black things. Draigg. You even have a virus, you're crazy, he said seriously. Issei. That doesn't matter, Draigg, we're going all out, he said as the gem began to shine brightly. Issei. Draigg. Me, who is about to wake up. I am the Red Dragon Emperor who holds high the king's truth. Holding the endless hopes and unbreakable dreams and walking the path of justice. I will become a Crimson Dragon Emperor. And I will lead you to the path of heaven, shining in a deep crimson light. Cardinal Crimson, the voices of the two resounded, modifying the chestnut's armor. Issei. Let's have fun. Dragon versus mutant. The atmosphere was totally tense, the girls could see how Isee and Wesker showed great power, and they knew that at any moment they would collide, but everything became much more tense when Murayama accidentally hit a rock, making it fall to the floor. Quickly, both began to exchange blows at high speed, shaking the entire place, causing Rias and Koneko to use all their magic to create a protective barrier that seemed not to last long, since each blow the two combatants made shook it. Wesker. Come on Brad, show me all that supposed power that was talked about so much, he said seriously, throwing a punch in the boy's face. Issei. You want it, you got it, he said euphoric, transforming his gauntlet into a bigger one, hitting Wesker, crashing him into the ground. Wesker. Not bad kid, he said, starting to put pressure on raising the brown-haired boy's fist who was using more force. Ross. What's going on? She said worriedly, entering with the rest of the teams watching the brutal battle. Rias. Issei decided to face the crazy Wesker, he said seriously, while Grafia, Ross and Kuroka decided to help with the barrier. Kuroka. But why does that madman emanate the energy of that damn riss of him, she said seriously. Koneko. The wretch not only experimented with Clark's brother but also with himself, turning him into a mutant with magical abilities. Claire. But what kind of sick person is he? She said surprised. Rias. I don't know, but now it's much more dangerous than before, she said without looking away from the battle. Wesker. You will never be able to stop me, Kitty said seriously as he moved away from the brown-haired boy and launched several magical attacks. Issei. Do you want to bet? He said appearing in front of him, giving him a strong headbutt. Wesker. Try as you might, you will never be able to defeat a being like me, he said, making the virus mutation grow, holding Isee and beginning to whip him all around, breaking the floor and walls. Claire. Isee screamed worriedly, seeing how the brown-haired boy's armor was broken from the helmet and his head was bleeding. Wesker. I thought you would be stronger, it just turned out to be a disappointment, he said seriously as he placed Isee face to face with him. Issei. I idiot the brown-haired boy smiled, throwing a powerful flame from his mouth, hitting the blonde full-on, who couldn't dodge it because of the proximity. Issei. And you are a confident fool, you really thought that just slamming me against some walls would be enough to defeat me, he said, cracking his knuckles, regenerating his armor. Wesker. Ah, I see you've been kidding me, he said seriously, showing a slightly larger mutation. Issei. Let me tell you that you are not the first one who comes to fight believing that he is coming to kill me, but let me tell you that you are the ugliest, he said with a big smile, giving him a large number of blows. Wesker. Oh, now you're a bad boy, you're so funny, I never thought I'd meet such an interesting boy, he said seriously as he stood up smiling. Issei. I know, they tell me that a lot, he said calmly as he stood face to face with the blonde. Wesker. And you know something else, he said calmly. Issei. What, he said curiously. Wesker. Those kind of people annoy me, he said, hitting the brown-haired boy in the jaw, making him fly into the air, but that wasn't all, as he moved at high speed and connected with another blow, crashing him to the ground. Issei. Wow, those are some good hits, but I think it's my turn now, he said, disappearing from the blonde's sight, appearing on his left, hitting him with everything, going crazy against a wall, but before hitting him, Issei appeared, giving him a spinning kick, nailing him squarely into the ground. Wesker. Damn Brad, I'm getting tired, he said seriously as he stood up and created a large number of magical attacks, launching them against the brown-haired boy. Issei. That won't be enough to stop me, he said seriously, creating a dragon shoot. Draigg. Boost X50. The dragon's voice resounded as the brown-haired boy launched a powerful shoot that collided with all attacks, completely nullifying them. Wesker. It seems that we are very evenly matched, he could not continue because out of nowhere 4 vines emerged from under the ground, holding each of the blonde's limbs, immobilizing him. Rias. But what, she said confused like the rest. Alexia. Do you think I wouldn't do anything to help? She said seriously as she appeared behind the girls. Issei. Alexia, he said in disbelief. Alexia. Do it, Hyoudou, kill him once and for all, finish off the one who has brought so much pain and suffering to our lives, she said with hatred, looking at the blonde who was trying to free himself. Issei understood. Draigg, he said seriously. Draigg. Cannons ready, he said seriously, while the armor's cannons appeared on the brown-haired man's back. Issei. This is for Piers, for causing this pandemonium in our home, for Grafia's brother, for Alexia's brother, and all the damage you caused to the Redfield family dragon blaster, he said with determination, launching a powerful attack with both cannons, hitting Wesker squarely, who could not defend himself, receiving it directly, causing a huge explosion. Helena. I defeated him, she said confused like the others. Rias. I don't know, she said seriously, watching the brown-haired boy look at the large smoke screen that his attack created. Wesker. Ha 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 ha, what a good attack, too bad that wasn't enough to stop me, he said amused, coming out of the smoke with his body practically destroyed, but slowly regenerating. Issei. TSK, you are a monster, he said, standing on guard. Wesker. You know the virus that infected me also has great qualities, both human and magical, not for nothing does its name say it all, he said seriously. Issei. What the hell are you talking about, he said seriously. Wesker. Look, when someone gets infected with this virus and is not compatible like me, they will begin to turn into a gigantic being that will continue to grow to infinity the more they consume, but if you are compatible, your wounds will continue to heal infinitely. That is the key, infinity, he said amused. Issei. Infinite Ophis, the dragon goddess Ouroboros' office is behind this, he said seriously. Wesker. More or less after everything, after his stupid war Rizavim captured her along with her copy, the so-called Lilith, and with them we experimented on them creating the Ouroboros, he said seriously. Issei. That you experimented with them, furious shout. Wesker. Unfortunately, the copy died, but don't worry, the original goddess is still alive, although I don't think she'll last long locked up in the underworld, he said, amused. Issei. You killed Lilith, he said euphoric while releasing power every second. Wesker. You should have seen them, hahaha, during each torture they screamed and cried calling you even after the death of the copy, the stupid dragon of infinity called you with dry tears, hahaha, she said with complete madness. Issei. Damn, you're going to regret it, he shouted furiously releasing great power. Wesker. Oh really, how are you going to survive this? He said, a symbol with two dragons eating each other like the infinity dragon appeared. Rias Isee screamed worriedly as she saw how the blonde created a gigantic orb of magical power. Wesker. Die, he said launching the attack. Olympus, they screamed worriedly watching how the boy tried to stop him. Wesker. Hahaha, finally it will be the end of the security, he said mockingly watching how the orb began to win over the brown-haired boy. Ada. We have to help him, she said nervously. Rias. If you distract Wesker we will help, could not continue because a voice sounded. Divide. Everyone opened their eyes in shock as they saw how the orb began to decrease in size. Alexia. Clark, she said incredulously as everyone looked up at the chestnut tree seeing Clark with his armor dividing the entire globe. Wesker. TSK, damn, so you're still alive, he said angrily. Clark. I think it's time for some fun, Wesker. The union of the celestial dragons. The atmosphere was totally tense. Clark's sudden appearance had changed things, and more so because he had just saved Isee from Wesker's strong attack, who was looking with annoyance at the boy in his white armor. Wesker. Wow, I thought you were dead, he said seriously. Clark. Well, you thought wrong, he said seriously. Issei. How the hell did you get here? He said seriously. Clark. Walking said as if nothing happened. Issei. Stop the nonsense, I mean where are the girls? He said seriously. Clark. Outside fighting with some fallen ones, and the truth is that with how motivated they are, I prefer not to interrupt them, he said seriously. Issei. What the hell are you talking about, he said seriously. Clark. Well, I promised them some things in order to let me fight, and I see that they took it too well, he said with a nervous tone. Issei. What did you tell them? Couldn't continue because Wesker. Wesker. Are you going to stay there talking like friends or are you going to fight? He said seriously. Clark. It seems you want to die quickly, he said seriously. Wesker. Try it, he said seriously. Issei. Clark. Now they shouted in unison. Quickly both dragons raised their power, launching themselves at great speed and beginning to exchange blows with the blonde who did not hesitate for a second to respond to the aggression, starting one of the most important battles of all time, where the fate of the world or what remains of it was at stake. Wesker. They think that two simple brats will beat me, he said arrogantly trying to hit the boys, but their speed was a little superior. Clark. You are very wrong, we are not just brats, he said holding his arm, while Isee jumped and gave him a blow that was taken as momentum by the black-haired man, who with a quick turn, threw Wesker with force. Issei. We are dragons, he said decisively charging two powerful dragon shoots and launching them against him, causing a huge explosion. Wesker. Bad damn, that really hurt me, he said coming out of the rubble regenerating his wounds, but this time slower. Issei. Well, get ready because this is just the beginning, he said appearing in front of him giving him a strong headbutt. Clark. We will not rest until we see you dead, he said furiously giving him a couple of blows, followed by the brown-haired boy. Wesker. Damn vermin, know your place, he shouted furiously releasing his mutation causing them to stick into the boys, throwing them to the other side of the place. Issei. That was a good hit, he said seriously while wiping the blood from his mouth and rebuilding his helmet. Wesker. This will teach you, he said creating several magic circles firing a large number of attacks. Clark. Fool Albion, he said seriously spreading his wings to the maximum. Albion. Divide, the dragon's voice resounded again, beginning to fade away his rival's attacks. Clark. Thanks for the extra power, I really needed it, he said seriously. Wesker. You really are an idiot, he said, appearing in front of him, landing a knee to his abdomen, breaking his armor, and grabbed him by the arm and began to whip the black-haired man from side to side. Issei. Damn you, he said, furiously activating his thrusters, going all out against the blonde, but when he was a few meters away from him, he threw him at Clark, making them collide. Wesker. Like I told you, stupid brats, he said, appearing above them, unleashing a punch with both arms, burying them in the ground. Rias, Isee, Clark, they screamed, worried like the rest of the others. Wesker. How pathetic, two vermin trying to survive in this post-apocalyptic world. I really don't know who of the two makes me laugh more. A poor idiot who will always see himself as the shadow of his brother, blaming himself day and night for his death, and no matter what he does, he will never be able to correct his mistakes. Or you, a perverted idiot who was endowed with great power and fought in countless battles, so that in the end all the people he called friends and women who claimed to love him betrayed him, leaving him aside as the useless one who is good except for a few exceptions. They don't see life, they will always see them as scum, no matter how hard they try, the result will be the same, being humiliated by a superior being, he said, while placing both feet on the boys' heads. Clary. Who do you think you are to judge people? She said angrily. Ross. And without knowing what they have been through to get here, you don't know the pain, the suffering they had to go through, she said angrily. Wesker. Now the hitches are coming to bark to save these flea-ridden dogs, he said as he kicked Clark and began to walk in the direction of the girls. Rias. Don't even think we're afraid of you, she said, seriously releasing her power like her companions, while the humans loaded their weapons. Wesker. I admire your courage, but are you also stupid? I already defeated the two strongest warriors that make you think that you can stop me? He said coldly. Issei. And who says that you defeated us? He said seriously while raising his head a little. Clark. You didn't realize that this was just a little break, he said seriously. Wesker. It seems that you don't understand that you will never be able to defeat me, he said seriously. Issei. No, Wesker, the one who doesn't understand is you. Maybe you're right, we've always been a couple of failures, that life has treated us the worst, leaving us in the worst misery that exists, but despite all that, we always get up, he said, standing up. Wesker. What nonsense are you talking about? He said seriously. Clark. It's no nonsense, we will always get up because we have people who care about us, and to see them happy we will continue fighting, no matter how many times they knock us down, we will continue standing, he said seriously. Issei. Clark. Until we are victorious, they shouted, beginning to release a large amount of power. Clark. Albion shouted seriously. Albion. I who am about to awaken am the White Dragon Emperor, who holds high the family value, holding the infinite dreams and the unbreakable hope and walking the truck of justice, I will become the White Dragon Emperor. And I will take you on the path of truth, shining in the deep white light. Cardinal White, the voice of the dragon resounded, modifying the armor, showing a new one. Issei. Wow, so you copied me, he said seriously while he repaired his Cardinal Crimson. Clark. Yes, it seems that way, but it doesn't matter, let's kill that idiot properly, he said seriously. Wesker. You think that because you modified your armor they believe that they will be able to stop me? He could not continue because both dragons moved at great speed, getting in front of him. Issei. You think so, he said, starting to give him a shower of blows that were practically impossible to dodge. Clark. It's my turn, he said seriously, creating two spheres of energy, hitting him with both arms, creating a huge explosion. Wesker. Damn you, I'll kill you both, he shouted furiously, releasing his mutations again, but this time more aggressive. Issei. You don't learn to use the same technique against the same opponent, it's useless, he said seriously, while the two dragons moved at high speed, dodging all the attacks. Wesker. You may be, but them, he said madly, throwing everything at the girls. Issei. TSK damn, he said, trying to contain some attacks. Clark. Albion half dimension, he shouted determinedly, increasing the size of his wings, while everything in front of him began to decrease in size, including Wesker's mutation. Wesker. I already told you, you won't beat me, he couldn't continue because Alexia's vines appeared holding him by the neck and his limbs. Clark. Alexia, he said in disbelief. Alexia. Come on, attack with everything quickly, we won't last long, she said with difficulty, while Rias and the others charged Alexia's vines with magic. Issei. Draigg, let's go all out, he said, releasing his cannons again. Clark. Albion ready, this is the end, we have to give it our all, he said, while a large cannon came out from behind him. Draigg. Albion. It's ready, do it, they said decisively. Clark. This is for all the people you hurt, he said, charging his attack with everything. Issei. And for all the people you killed, he said the same thing. Girls. Do it, they said with all their might. Isee. Clark. Dragon Blaster, Dragon Destroyer, they shouted, launching the attack in unison. Wesker. This can't be the end of me, no. The end is just the beginning. A huge explosion covered the entire place, blinding those present, while both dragons remained serious and on guard, since they did not know if that had been enough to finish off that damn Wesker once and for all. Albion. We beat him, said the dragon from the wings. Clark. I don't know, that bastard always finds a way to come back, he said without letting his guard down. Issei. I agree with you, he said seriously, while the two watched as the smoke that was generated after the attack slowly began to fade, making the view clearer. Rias. It can't be, she said nervously, seeing Wesker standing. He no longer had his mutation, but he was still standing there with serious injuries. Wesker. It's not possible how two beings like you could defeat me, the one who had the best virus and magic, even had the power of a dragon god. Why were you able to defeat me? He said, trying to walk. Issei. I can't believe you have such a great mind, and yet you are so blind that you can't see it, he said coldly. Wesker. What the hell are you talking about? He said angrily. Issei. You only have powers that you yourself acquired in a bad way. You forced your body to adapt to them. That creates nothing more than a degeneration in your body that could be sustained thanks to the power of Ophis, but you only got a part of power that you didn't even take the time to properly adapt to your body, unlike mine. I have a body made with the flesh and blood of Great Red and the power of Ophis, and despite having enough time with them, I still have a hard time using that power at 100%. Now tell me what happened to you. It was obvious that overloading that power would lead you to ruin, he said seriously. Wesker. That's not true, it has to be a lie, he said, walking slowly. Issei. It's not my problem if you don't want to accept the truth, but that was what led you to defeat. Your virus combined with the power of Ophis gave you regeneration, but by overloading your body with our attacks it failed, and now you are completely vulnerable, he said seriously, while his partner took a few steps forward, raising his hand with a loaded shotgun. Wesker. This can't be my fi, he couldn't continue because the black-haired man shot his head flying. Clark. You boasted so much power and a simple shotgun took your life, he said coldly, lowering the weapon. Issei. Let's not leave any loose ends, he said, charging his hand with a dragon shoot and firing it at the blonde's inert body, making him disappear completely. Rias Isee screamed happily as the rest of his entourage charged at him. Issei. Girls, it's good that this madness is over, now we can talk, he said happily, his armor disappearing. Clark. This isn't over, everything outside is chaos, he said seriously. Issei. Oh yeah, sure, we'll talk later. So everyone left the place, seeing the whole city where some areas had fallen buildings, rubble, fire and corpses, while some of the victims who were still standing were killed by the girls who had no remorse in ending their lives. Issei. What a mess, he said seriously. Clark. We'll have to work overtime, he said calmly while Isee started laughing. Issei. Ha, you're right, this will be a lot of overtime, I hope the pay is the same, he said, calmly summoning his armor. Helena. Come on, we all have to help, she said calmly. Rias. We will also help, she said happily. Ada. I guess I will too. Everyone split up, some went together to see how they could help. Isee and Clark began to fly over the city, stopping at some places with rubble, helping to get out people who were trapped or injured, while Rias and her group with the help of magic helped put out the fires. Clark. Issei detected magical energy 1 kilometer from your position in a northerly direction, he said seriously. Issei. I understand, I'll be right there, he said seriously, activating his thrusters and going in search of that signal. Come on, we'll be there soon, said the voice of a somewhat tired girl. Do I know, but I'm hungry, we haven't eaten in 2 days, another girl said, but this one sounded younger. Issei. Who are you? Identify yourselves, he said from above, descending. The oppai dragon, the youngest girl shouted excitedly, running to hug him. Issei. The truth is you, she said incredulously. Young Hyoudou, it's really you, said the other girl in amazement. Issei. You too, Lavinia, he said in shock, deactivating his armor. Lavinia. It's a pleasure to see you again, she said, hugging the chestnut tree. Issei. It's been a while, the last thing I remember is that you were with Vali, he said a little more seriously. The Fae. No, Isee-san, they told us that you were dead, she said confused. Issei. What? But who the hell told them that, he said confused. Lavinia. It was Vali, he told us that you couldn't come out of the coma and they decided to disconnect you. We wanted to see your grave or go to the funeral, but that's when the infection started, she said seriously. Issei. That damn thing couldn't continue because Clark appeared. The Fae. What the hell are you doing here, Vali? She shouted angrily, launching a magic attack, knocking down the boy who was not expecting that attack. Issei. Hey, calm down, he said nervously, holding the little girl. The Fae. I'm sorry, Isee-san, but I can't because of that bastard, my brother died, she said angrily, trying to free herself. Clark. I'm sorry, miss, but I'm not Vali, he said, deactivating the armor. Lavinia. Who are you? She said confused. Issei. This is my friend Clark, he is the new hacker Yuiku. Hey, I think you should deactivate your armor when you introduce yourself, he said seriously. Clark. You think, he said with irony. Lavinia. I don't understand what happened to Volley, she said confused. Issei. We went on a mission and we met him, and then we ended his life, and Albion decided to change the carrier, he said calmly. The Fae. That's good, that bastard deserved it, she said angrily. Clark. Nice to meet you ladies, sorry for the confusion, he said bowing slightly. The Fae. I'm sorry I attacked you, she said sadly. Clark. Don't worry, I would have done the same thing in your place, he said calmly. Issei. Well girls, what are you doing here? He said confused. Lavinia. We are looking for a place where we can live. Before, we lived in a shelter where there were more supernatural beings, but some strange men with some human beings who acted like zombies, but more aggressive and killed everyone. Among those infected were Biku and Cao Cao, she said sadly. Issei. I see, so come with us, with what happened in the city you can go unnoticed, he said happily. Lavinia. Really, she said hopefully. I see. Sure, let's go. The four of them went to the city, obviously the boys took the girls until they reached it, since their Clark left Lefay with Isee, and he left since he had to speak with the council about certain matters. Boardroom. We see the black-haired man next to Evelyn who was handcuffed, while the two were watched by a group of men and women who looked quite serious. Clark. Can I know why the girl is handcuffed? He said seriously. MDEC-1. How can you ask? Because she is a monster, a being that you and Hyoudou should have exterminated, he said seriously, making the girl feel bad. MDEC-2. And that's why we brought you here, so you can make up for your mistake. Kill her, he said, giving the boy a gun. Clark. Do you really think I'm going to do it? He said seriously. MDEC-3. If you refuse you will also be eliminated, he said seriously. Clark. There are a bunch of old geezers, because of the attack we received, you and I are face to face without being protected in your safe places, and you're behind a stupid screen, who says that I can't kill you now, he said, seriously invoking his wings. MDEC-8. What the hell is that? He said seriously. Clark. By the way, he is Albion, the White Emperor Dragon, the counterpart of the dragon sealed in Isee, and now he has made me a dragon, and it would be very easy for me to kill them all here, and now, he said seriously, activating his armor. MDEC-6. What do you want? He said seriously but somewhat scared. Clark. Easy, the girl and Alexia Ashford will live with me from now on, and you must treat them like ordinary people. If I see that a single mercenary tries something against them, I will marry them one by one, and I also want you to stop overexploiting Isee and me along with our women, understand, he said seriously. MDEC-1. Okay, we accept your terms, we just want you to keep working for us, he said seriously. Clark. Deal. 5 hours later. The dawn could be seen on the horizon, while the two celestial dragons watched the moment from the top of a building for the first time. Peace could be seen on their faces, but in Isee there was something, a feeling that did not let him enjoy the moment completely. Clark. And now that the big threats we had are over and your girls are with you, he said seriously. Issei. I know and I'm happy but I still feel like something is missing, he said seriously. Clark. It will be the dragon goddess Ophis, do you think she is alive? He said curiously. Issei. Yes, and the truth is I want to go to the underworld to find out if she is still alive, but there is something else, he said seriously. Clark. And what is it, he said curiously. Issei. All the kingdoms fell, there must still be innocent people who need help, and even if they don't want to, we have the opportunity to help them, he said seriously. Clark. I know more or less what you mean, and I think the girls will support you, and I will too, so I ask you again, what will we do now, he said seriously. Issei. We will save the factions. The final mission begins. We can see Isee standing in front of two graves where the names of Michael and Gabriel lay written on those stone plaques in the shape of a cross, not being able to help but feel bad, because despite everything they showed that they were truly sorry for what they did, the opposite of the fallen, and more so what his friend claimed to be. Issei. I hope you can meet your father, he said with some sadness. Clark. Issei, I already gathered all the girls as you asked, he said seriously. Issei. Okay, let's go. Hey, they've already buried Agent Nivens, he said without looking at the black-haired man. Clark. If they just finished burying him, many agents were there, he said something sad about the boy. Issei. He was a good agent, but now the world is like this, you don't know when your life is going to end, he said seriously, turning around and starting to walk. Clark. Well, it's true that life is not the same anymore. Hyoudou residence. We see all the girl agents in addition to the girls and the members of the Grimoire clan, along with Graphia, who were waiting for both young men who did not take long to appear, surprising the girls a little when they saw the seriousness of the two boys. Rias. Is everything okay? She said worriedly. Issei. Yes but no, but before that for Rias and the others who are supernatural a few hours ago while we were fixing this mess, we met two people known to us he said seriously. Ross. Who is it, Isee-kun? She said curiously. Issei. Well, look at them for yourselves he said while the black-haired man opened the door revealing Lavinia and LaFay. Kuroka LaFay screamed in shock running to where the magician was. The fairy. Kuroka she said impressed while hugging the Nekomata who didn't take a second to reciprocate. Rias. Lavinia, you also survived this madness she said incredulously looking at the girl. Lavinia. I'm also surprised to see you here, Miss Gremory she said calmly. Issei. Yes all this is very surprising, they survived in a refugee camp for supernaturals, but everything went to waste because of the idiot Bali, and of all the refugees, only they were left he said seriously, while many made a face of disgust upon hearing the name of the albino. Kuroka. He screwed up your lives too she said angrily. The Fae. Yes, and because of you my brother died she said with tears. Kuroka. Don't cry anymore, Arthur is in a better place now, and that poor guy must be suffering in the other world for everything he did she said, calming the little girl. Issei. Now I have gathered you all to tell you that I have a new mission and perhaps the most complicated of all, and not because of the danger, but because of the place he said seriously. Koneko. Issei senpai where are you going? She said curiously. Issei. I'll go to the underworld he said seriously leaving everyone speechless. Rias. But you're crazy, why do you want to go back to that damn place where those unhappy people are? She shouted angrily, although the others had the same ideas as her. Issei. I know that the idea bothers you and more because according to what you told me, most of them are in that place, but I must go. If there is a small possibility that Ophis is alive, I have to go for her, just as I made the promise to go for you, I will do it with her, and I also want to help the rest of the factions he said seriously. Claire. Now you lost your mind help the damn ones who abandoned you what are you thinking? You've already seen how the Yakes and Asgardians treated you and yet you want to help them, she screamed very angry to the point that it surprised her brother and Sherry. Issei. Yes, I know, I haven't forgotten it, but you have to put yourself in their place. They are people who saw how their way of life changed drastically, and when they saw me, their desperation came out, that's why they told me those things, but thinking about it coldly, the people didn't do anything bad to me. Those who betrayed were the leaders. The people of each faction are innocent, and that's why I must help them he said with a determined look. Alexia. You have a good point she said seriously. Issei. Well that would be all I wanted to tell you Clark and I will leave in 3 hours he said seriously turning around. Rias. Don't wait, we'll go too she said seriously while her companions nodded. Issei. What? He said confused. Rias. Don't even think that we will let you go, we will just go with you she said seriously. Claire. Us too she said seriously with Sherry and Ada. Alexia. And don't even think that you're going to go off alone with those boars, because if they can't have Isee because of their stupidity, I don't doubt that they'll try to seduce you she said seriously, while Jill and Evelyn nodded. The Fae. We will go too she said more excitedly. Lavinia. If there is a chance to see Ophis, I will help in any way I can she said seriously. Murayama. I'm already into this madness and I want to know at least a little about the supernatural realms, so I would like to accompany you she said seriously. Issei. I see from your faces that you can't convince them not to go, right? He said tiredly while everyone shook their heads. Clark. Okay, I see, now pay up he said amused. Issei. Yes, you don't have to tell me he said giving him a wad of bills. Rias. And that's why she said confused. Clark. He bet me that you would stay here and we would go alone, but I told him that you would not hesitate to go with us, and we bet he said calmly putting away the money leaving everyone with a look of disbelief. Issei. Now that there are so many of us, it would be best to go in vehicles, but they have to be sturdy, since a large number of people moving around a somewhat large territory would be very complicated, adding those damn creatures he said seriously. Clark. I have just what we need. 2.5 hours later. We see the entire group except Clark walking to a somewhat large place similar to a warehouse, while Isee was talking to Alomar about their mission and that they would be away for a while, and that thanks to the black-haired man who convinced the council they can do whatever they want without exceeding the limits. Shiva. You know this is complete madness, right? She said seriously. Issei. Tell me when I've done something sane he said amused. Shiva. Good point, but leaving that aside don't worry we will take care of everything here she said calmly. Issei. Excellent, but for anything do not hesitate to contact us, you, Rebecca and Helena he said seriously. Shiva. Don't worry, we know how to take care of ourselves she said calmly. Issei. I know he said calmly. Rias. Hey Isee, how does this outfit look on us? she said nervously as she and the others along with Grafia and Murayama showed off a similar outfit. Issei. They look very pretty, he said, somewhat blushing, making the girls very happy to see that little sample of the old Issei. Claire. Issei, are you okay, she said, a little jealous like Ada. Issei. Yes, just where the hell is Clark, he said nervously. Clark. Hey, calm down, old man, I'm here, he said calmly, coming out of a door. Issei. And well, where are those super vehicles you talked about, he said curiously. Clark. Here are a series of 3 vehicle models produced by an old friend, Barry Burton, called the Armored Human Displacement Vehicle, or the DAV, he said, as the curtain rose revealing 6 vehicles, 2 of each type. Issei. What is this, he said in shock. Rias. Because there are 3 different models, she said curiously. Clark. The VAD are divided into 3 types. Central, the battleship where the High Command travels, he said, well, they saw something similar to a van. Clark. The second is Guardian, the fastest and with the most lethal weapons, he said, well, pointing to a smaller one with a large armament on top. Clark. The last one is the heavy-duty big cargo, with the capacity to carry 70 people inside, he said, showing the biggest one of all that looked like a trailer, but highly reinforced. Issei. Great, let's go to the underworld. Bremery Refugio. We can see the rest of the members of the depressed Rias clan lamenting their misfortune when one of them approached a window to see the depressing landscape that was reflected in their lives, but was somewhat surprised to see a magic circle in the distance revealing several vehicles. Asia. Girls, look, she said, upset. Zenobia. What's wrong? She said seriously. Asia. Some strange cars came out of a magic circle. She couldn't continue because a well-known magic power was present. Akeno. It can't be this power, is it, she said incredulously. Zenobia from the Isee. Suffering. The 6 vehicles entered, destroying everything in front of them, no matter what was in front of them, they sent it flying, since that was what these vehicles were designed for, being driven by Isee and Clark, the attack vehicles with Sherry and Evelyn as the gunners, Alexia and Claire the central vehicles with Koneko and Kunu as the gunners, but also in these were Rias, Ross, Kuroka, Grafia and Lefay respectively, and in the cargo vehicles were Jill and Ada with Murayama and Lavina as gunners. Issei. I love this, he said while walking ahead. Clark. I'm with you, he said while destroying some walls that remained around the place. Evelyn. Dad, a large number of zombies ahead, she said seriously. Clark. You and Sherry tear them to pieces, he said amused as the little girls aimed and fired the tremendous weapons of the 2 vehicles. Ooh. The explosion caused a tremendous bang that alerted all the zombies and also a large number of people who were in the different shelters of the underworld, but more than that, it surprised the boys' companions. Rias. Don't you think that was a bit exaggerated? We were able to get past them, he said with a drop of sweat. Issei. No, I don't think so, he said amused. Claire. Well, that wasn't exaggerated now because both of them are listening to the Bad Boy song, she said, while a drop of sweat came out of everyone. Issei. Clark. Because it's cool. Bremery Refugio. Surzich. What the hell is going on? He said nervously. Akeno. Surzich-sama won't believe it, but out of nowhere 6 vehicles have appeared, but that's not the most impressive thing, she said upset. Surzich. If it's not that, then what is it, he said seriously. Akeno. As soon as those vehicles appeared, Issei's magical power could be felt, she said more upset. Surzich. What did you say? Isee is here. With the chestnut. Issei. Draigg, do you feel the power of Ophis, he said seriously. Draigg. Yes, my friend, it's a bit weak, but I can feel it, it's something south of the city, he said seriously. Issei. Those bastards were always hiding very close to us, he said seriously while changing direction, being followed by the others. 1 hour later. The boys arrived at the foot of a mountain where they found a cave, deciding to get out of the vehicles and enter the place, killing some zombies that were there, and after walking a few meters, they found a door about 5 meters high and wide that Isee decided to knock down, finding a place with similarities to those of a castle, but all destroyed and dirty. Rias. Those bastards were hiding right under our noses, she said incredulously. Isee. Yes, this is very impressive, but let's not waste time, Draigg, he said seriously. Draigg. I can feel his power 50 meters to the left, he said seriously. Issei. Let's go, he said seriously while everyone ran until they reached a white hallway. Ria's office is behind that door, she said seriously. Issei. Most likely, he said seriously taking a step. Clark. Be careful, he shouted while pushing all the girls back while Isee accidentally stepped on a plate separating them from the others. Alexia. Damn, it's a trap, she said seriously hitting a glass. Issei. Now what, he said seriously. Clark. That panel in the background can probably deactivate the wall, he said seriously. Issei. Yes, leave it to me, he said seriously, starting to walk. Sherry. Daddy, be careful, she screamed worriedly, seeing how laser beams came out of the walls, which the brown-haired boy managed to dodge by jumping back. Rias. Issei activated your armor, she said worried. Issei. It can't be too risky, we're in a Chaos Brigade base, and it's more than obvious that it will end up affecting me, he said seriously, while several lasers began to move in his direction. Claire. Here they come, she said worried like most who loved the brown-haired boy. Issei. Piece of cake, he said while analyzing the movement of the lasers, and at a specific moment he jumped in the middle, coming out unharmed. Clark. They're going back, he said alarmed seeing how the number of lasers increased, and this time they began to move in the opposite direction. Issei. Simple, he said seriously as he began to run against the exit door and pushing himself with it, he passed over the lasers. Issei. It wasn't that difficult, he said amused as he watched the lasers and glass wall deactivate by opening the door. Claire. I'm glad you're okay, she said while hugging him along with Sherry and Kunu. Issei. Calm down now, he said happily. Clark. Good job, Reddy said amused while touching his shoulder. Issei. Okay, let's go get Ophis, he said as everyone entered the room that was a rundown and destroyed laboratory. Murayama. What kind of atrocities occurred in this place? She said tensely seeing several traces of blood. Albion. Partner on your left, he said seriously, while the black-haired man turned his head. Clark. I say look at this, he said seriously, while everyone looked at where the black-haired man was pointing, seeing a little dead girl surrounded by blood. Rias. No, Lilith, she said in shock while the supernaturals brought their hands to their mouths. Issei. Lilith, he said as he began to cry until he reached where the little girl was hugging her cold body. Issei. I couldn't protect you, I could not protect you, he screamed while crying harder, clinging to the little girl's body releasing a lot of power. Clark. Issei, calm down, he said while holding him tightly, separating him from the little girl. Issei. I don't deserve to be a hero, I couldn't protect her, I couldn't do it, he said while lamenting on the ground. Clark. I know brother, I know it's hard, but we have to keep going, there's still someone we have to save, you have to stay strong, he said while staring at him. Issei. He couldn't continue because Clark slapped him hard. Clark. Listen to me and do it right, everyone in this damn world has lost important people, family, friends, lovers, but despite everything we have gotten up despite everything, and it is time for you to do it, because there is someone here who needs you, and it is time for you to get up, he said standing up and stretching out his hand. Issei. I'm sorry, he said while wiping away his tears. Rias. Let's look for Ophis, she said softly. Evelyn. She is Ophis, she said seriously while everyone turned around watching the brunette see another brunette locked in a large glass tube. Issei Ophis, he said while running to where he was. Ada. How are we going to get her out of that place? She said seriously. Alexia. We could search the computers and she couldn't continue because Isee broke the glass with a single blow and was holding Ophis. Clark. Oh, we could just send the crystal to hell, and that's it, he said incredulously watching as Isee removed all the tubes from Ophis. Issei. Come on Ophis, wake up, it's me, Issei, coming to rescue you, he said worriedly, while carrying the little girl who after a couple of minutes began to open her eyes. Ophis. Where am I, what's happening to me, Issei, is it really you? She said while looking at the brown-haired boy and couldn't help but shed tears. Issei. Yes, Ophis, it's me, sorry for taking so long, he said while smiling at her. Ophis. Isee, she said while crying and hugging the brown-haired boy while everyone sighed with happiness when they saw that the loli was fine. Clark. We already have the dragon goddess of infinity, it's time to begin the second phase of our mission, he said seriously. Rias. What is the mission itself, she said curiously. Issei. The supernatural survival mission. Supernatural survival beginning. Issei slowly got up while Rias, using magic, manifested a sheet to cover Ophis, who despite being conscious was very weak, but this was no impediment to joy, although with a bitter taste due to Lilith's death. Ophis, Issei, where is Lilith, she said while staring at the brown-haired boy. Issei Ophis, she's in a better place now, he said sadly as silence filled the place. Ophis. She died, she said with tears in her eyes. Issei. I'm afraid that he couldn't continue because a voice spoke. So my brother couldn't finish you off, Sekirute, said a distorted voice in the darkness. Issei. Who said that? He said while everyone was on guard. As expected, my dear brother Albert did not say anything about me, but well, I will introduce myself. My name is Alex Wesker, said a deformed being with a feminine appearance divided into the upper and lower parts of its body, but these seemed to be joined by the spine and some metal tubes. Murayama. What the hell is that? He said while most of them pointed their weapons at him. Alex. Oh, why would that reaction be because of my appearance? I'm sorry I can't get ready, I don't get many visitors around here, she said amused. Issei. You said you were the sister of that damn Wesker, he said seriously while staying alert. Alex. If he is my dear brother, that damn crawling vermin left me here in this damn place surrounded by those monstrosities, he said furiously. Clark. Well, you're not that pretty, let's say, he said seriously. Alex. They tell me that a lot, but now that they're here I'll have a little fun, he said, moving at high speed against the boys, taking Isee by the neck, making him release Ophis, who was miraculously caught by Ross. Clark. Damn wretch, he said as he summoned his armor and launched himself at the mutant. Alex. Oh, but if that is the famous armor of the White Emperor, you will be very useful in my experiments, he said, while using his agility to dodge the boy and take him with his other hand, crashing him to the ground. Issei. Damn, his grip is so strong, he said while trying to free himself. Rias. Wretched woman, let go of my man, she said, while launching a great attack of the power of destruction, followed by Lavinia and Kuroka. Alex. Ha, do you think that caused me any harm? Then tried as she couldn't continue because Koneko gave her a powerful blow to the chin, making her fall, which is the moment that Isee and Clark took advantage of to free themselves. Issei. Draigg, he said seriously. Draigg. Welsh Dragon Booster Gear Balance Breaker Scale Male, the dragon's cry was heard as the armor covered the boy. Alex. They think the two stupid dragons can defeat me. I have inside me the most powerful virus of all, the T-Phobos virus, and with it, I will be invincible. He couldn't continue because Alexia pierced his head with one of her vines and then tore his entire body apart with the same vine. Alexia. Your brother killed mine, now I return the favor, she said coldly. Clark. How rude, he said amused watching the blonde who returned to her normal form and with a syringe, took a blood sample from what was left of the Wesker. Alexia. I think this was the last virus missing from the organization, she said seriously while taking some papers from the floor. Issei. That family was really crazy creating viruses all the time, he said seriously. Clark. It would be best to get out of here, we don't want another unexpected surprise, he said seriously while everyone nodded. Ophai. What are we going to do with Lilith? She said sadly. Issei. I would like to give him a burial, he said sadly. Clark. If that's what you want, we'll do it, but we should do it in the human world. No one deserves to rest in a place full of death and destruction, he said calmly, while Lavinia handed him a sheet and it wrapped the little girl's entire body and then lifted her up. Issei. Thank you. So the whole group left the place, but not before destroying part of the facilities with the help of magical attacks and then getting into the vehicles, getting Ophis on with Kuroka so that she could take care of her and Clark would carry Lilith's body and start moving, seeing how the zombies were starting to arrive. Clark. Issei, now where are we going, he said seriously. Issei. Rias, where are the shelters, he said seriously. Rias. They are heading north of the city, but if we continue in this direction we will reach the Citri shelter, she said seriously. I see. Well, let's stay on course. How many shelters are there? He said seriously. Rias. There were only 3 until we left. The third is the Asterisk shelter, but I don't know how it is, she said seriously. I see. We'll see that later, he said seriously as they continued moving forward. Citri refuge. The vehicles stopped at a large cave, seeing that deep down there were installations that were very well made to be part of the caves, so they did not take long to go to the place, knocking on the door. Guard. Entry is prohibited to this place, leave, he said seriously. Issei. Sir, I'm not in the mood to be kept waiting, so I'll be brief. We've come to take you to a safe place away from infection, he said seriously. Guard. Why you are Hyoudou, Isee the Security, why it's impossible, you are dead, he said incredulously. Issei. Let's say that my death was greatly exaggerated, but that doesn't matter to me, please open the door and let us help you, he said seriously. The guard, still hesitant, opened the door and was greatly surprised to see the brown-haired boy, who for him was like seeing a dead person, but his impression did not end there as he saw the Gremory heiress and other supernatural beings, but before he could say anything, someone spoke. Sona. How the hell do you think of opening the door? Do you know the danger you could have put our shelter in? Don't you? She couldn't continue because she saw the brown-haired boy who remained calm in front of her. Issei. I see you're still just as strict, no Kaicho, he said amused. Rias. Issei, you know she will never change, she said calmly, while Sona's eyes became teary. Sona. Issei, Rias is alive, she said, bringing her hands to her mouth as she began to cry. Tsubaki. Sona, what's wrong? Why are you crying? Issei, Rias, Koneko, Ross, Kuroka, you're all alive. She said incredulously. Sona. But how do you know you were supposed to have been sent to the human world where the worst of this apocalypse was, she said, trying to stay calm. Issei. Let's say that I was able to survive all this time, and now that I have enough means, I have come to help you, he said calmly. Tsubaki. Really, he said happily. Rias. Wait, how do you know that Isee was sent to the human world? The only ones who knew that were the stupid leaders and my stupid entourage, she said seriously. Sona. My stupid sister, one day consumed by fear and isolation, told me how Isee was betrayed and how some hitches in your entourage changed Isee for Vali. From that day on, I took control as the leader of the Citri clan and how you see them trying to keep this place afloat, she said more calmly, walking with the others. Issei. I see, you could gather all the survivors you have, he said seriously. Sona. Of course Tsubaki, gather them all together. By the way, who is that boy and why do I feel the energy of the White Emperor in him? She said seriously looking at Clark. Issei. He is my best friend Clark and you feel the power of Albion in him. Why now he is the hacker Yuiku after we killed Vali, he said seriously, while Sona opened her eyes in shock but could not say anything because at that moment a large number of people who easily reached 58 were looking at the brown-haired boy with shock. Among them the most outstanding were Sakara Gares and Sererg Bale. Sererg. Issei, you are alive, but they had told us that you had died, he said incredulously. Issei. Many things have been said about me, but the simple truth is that I was betrayed by the leaders and by some members of my love clan and I was sent to the human world to die, but now I am here and that is what matters since we have come to take you to the human world to a safe place where there is food, shelter and free of infection, he said seriously while everyone began to celebrate. Rias. Now outside there are 2 vehicles that can transport everyone, there is no need to push, but we do want everyone to line up so that my colleague, Dr. Alexia Ashford, can check them and see that they are healthy and do not have any infection. I know it will be a little tedious, but it is the protocol, she said seriously while everyone nodded and began to form a line. Sererg. It's a pleasure to see you, he said while hugging the retreat. Rias. Likewise cousin, she said happily while the boy left. Issei. Sona, where is Saji, he said curiously while the brunette lowered her head. Sona. Follow me, he said sadly as he and Clark followed the girl to the top of the shelter, seeing an esplanade where Momo and Raruko could be seen with 2 babies in their arms and in front of them on a large rock Saji was chained. Saji. Isee, you are alive, he said impressed, trying to stand up. Issei. Saji, but why, he said confused. Sona. He was bitten a long time ago and slowly the infection has been consuming him, but we have not wanted to kill him, or rather we do not have the strength to do so, she said sadly. Saji. I can't believe you're actually here, that makes me very happy, you'll be able to meet my children, he said happily while Momo and Raruko approached the chestnut tree showing him 2 little babies, no more than 3 months old. Issei. They are very cute, he said with pain in his throat. Saji. Yes, I know, thank God, they look like their mothers, he said, amused. Issei. Maybe I can save you. I'll go too, I couldn't continue because Saji spoke. Saji. No, Isee, I no longer have time. With each passing minute, I feel like I'm losing the battle against this damn virus, he said seriously. Issei. Don't say that, you'll see what happens, he didn't continue when he saw the blonde's gaze. Saji. Can I ask you a couple of favors, he said sadly but with a big smile. Issei. What a thing, he said seriously and with a bad feeling. Saji. You could look after the good of my children and my wives, and you could kill me, he said calmly. Issei. What are you talking about, how can you ask me that? He said sadly. Saji. Issei, please, I want to die as a human, not as a monster, I don't want my loved ones to see me as those things, and I want to leave knowing that my children and my girls are fine, I ask you, he said with a peaceful smile. Issei just remained silent as tears ran down his face as he raised his hand with a gun in his hand before the pained gaze of everyone present and especially the women who loved the blonde. Saji. I love you, he said happily as he sat on the rock staring at the brown-haired boy. Sajij. Thank you, friend, he said with a smile full of joy. Issei. Goodbye, friend. The moment of truth is about to arrive. The place had plunged into total silence while the brown-haired man held a trembling gun in his hand, with which seconds before he had taken the life of a great friend of his, but the silence did not last long, since 2 girls with babies in their arms burst into tears. Sona. Come on girls, it's time to go, said the woman with a lump in her throat trying to stay strong. Issei. Forgive me, he said with his gaze down as tears came out of his face. Momo. No, Isee-kun, you don't have to ask us for forgiveness. This was Saji's wish, she said sadly. Baruko. He asked us to kill him a long time ago, but we never had the courage to do it, said the same as her companion. Sona. Come on girls, don't remember those bad times anymore, keep the best ones, she said a little calmer while taking the girls back to the bunker. Angel. I had family apart from the girls, he said calmly. Issei. I had 2 little brothers, but I guess they must be dead, he said sadly. Angel. Issei, are you okay? He said calmly while putting his hand on his shoulder. Issei. No, those damn viruses have caused all this suffering, damn the time when that damn organization existed, he said with frustration. Angel? Yes, since this madness began, we have all lost family and friends, and that is why we must strive daily to avoid more tragedies, he said somewhat sadly, while trying to cheer up the brown-haired boy. Issei. I would like to bring him with us, he deserves to be informed in the same world as his family, he said a little calmer. Angel. Sure, I'll go get a sheet, he said as he entered the bunker. Issei. Go in peace, I will take care of your family. Everyone went through the security system to get on the transports, but everything went silent when Isee appeared with Saji's body wrapped and loaded it into his vehicle, while Sona and company loaded the few provisions they had left. Issei. That was what was left of the great magical girl, what a disappointment, Serafal, he said coldly, looking at the Mayu who was in front of him with her torn and dirty clothes and who seemed to have dried tears. Serafal, I see you are alive, she said weakly. Issei. No thanks to you and the rest of the imbeciles, or did you forget how you were very much in agreement with the plan to get rid of me, he said seriously. Serafal. Boo, forgive me, I know I was wrong, I don't know why I supported them, please forgive me. She couldn't continue because Isee put a gun to her head. Issei. Tell me a single reason to take you with us and not leave you in that rotten place, he said seriously. Sona. Issei, please, I ask you to put down the weapon, you don't have to get your hands dirty with it, she said annoyed. Issei. I don't plan on killing her, I just don't want to take her with us, the human world doesn't need her, he said coldly, causing great pain in the former Mayu when he saw the brown-haired man's contempt. Rias. Don't do it, Isee, she said with an annoyed voice. Issei. Rias, for why do you ask me that? You know what she did to me, he said angrily. Rias. I know, I hate her with all my being, but if you do that, you will only show that you are like them, and that is not true, you are better, she said while holding the brown-haired boy's hand and lowering the gun. Issei. You're right, she will come, but as soon as you're in the human world, I don't want to see you again in my life, he said coldly as he put away his weapon and turned his back on her. Sona. Thanks, Isee. So Sona and her people were checked and then everyone got into one of the transports. After all, there weren't that many people to fill the vehicle. But before they could close it, everyone became terrified because a large group of zombies were in front of them. Rias. Damn, she said seriously as everyone prepared their weapons. Issei. We will take care of it, he said seriously while looking at Clark, who just nodded somewhat doubtfully. Claire. Issei. Sure, she said doubtfully. Issei. Sure, it will be fun, he said taking out his gun. Clark. Only with weapons without using the sacred gears, he said curiously. Issei. Of course. Quickly, the masters began to run against the zombies, using not only their weapons, but also their hands to hit the zombies and then shoot them in the head or break their necks, to the shock of all the people who could not believe that two simple boys were fighting the beings that caused them so much fear. Sona. They are incredible, she said with her mouth open. Rias. Sona, I'm surprised you're like this. You know very well that when Isee puts effort into something, it becomes amazing. She said calmly, watching as Isee swept away several zombies, shooting some, hitting others, and finishing them off with her weapon. Sona. Well, I know that, but even his partner doesn't show fear when facing the zombies, she said, still in amazement. Rias. Sona, in the human world, I can assure you that they have suffered much more than us, and despite all that they have come out ahead regardless of the threat, and as you see, Clark, there are many humans who are not afraid to face the creatures among them are Jill. Ada and Claire, she said seriously while the three mentioned nodded, watching how Clark used the strap of his weapon to catch a zombie and use it as a shield, finishing off more zombies. Sona, humans are much more than us. While everyone was still in their astonishment, Isee spun on the ground, finishing off the small wave of zombies, while on the other hand, Clark threw himself to the ground, using another zombie to crawl, finishing off the zombies on his side, standing up almost at the same time. Issei. That was fun, he said calmly while changing the magazine of his gun. Clark. I must admit that you are right, but now is not the time to talk, we must go, he said seriously while Isee nodded. Claire. Where are we going now? She said curiously. Rias. I think we should go to the Asterisk shelter, she said seriously. Sona. It will be a waste of time to go there, she said seriously. Ross. Because you say that, she said curiously. Sona. A few days ago we received a message from that bunker saying that everyone was dead and the person who was sending the message was hurt as he began to be devoured by those things, she said nervously. Issei. I see, then there is only one left to go to, he said bitterly. Makeup. El Gremory. All the vehicles headed towards the Gremory bunker, being guided by the Redeed, while with each passing second Isee became more serious until they reached the place and could see the entrance, which was somewhat broken, which put them on alert. Issei. I can't believe they were able to get in like this, he said seriously as the team entered the place. Rias. I really don't know, but this surprises me quite a bit, she said, looking at the rather dark place that was illuminated by some sparks of light. Who are you? Said a voice in the darkness. Rias. I am Rias Gremory, show yourself, she said seriously while keeping her guard. See Miss Riasda, is it really you? Said a brunette maid emerging from the shadows. Rias. Yulika said, amazed, running to see the woman. Issei. Who is she, he said, confused. Yulika. The secretary, she said in surprise. Ross. She is Yulika, we could say that she was the boss of all the maids in the Gremory mansion below Graphia, she said seriously. Rias. Yulika, what happened here, where are the others, she said seriously. Yulika. There was a problem with the security system and the zombies were able to enter. Many died, I and a few other people survived. They are hiding on the 3rd floor, but Mr. Surzich, he locked himself on the upper floor with his pieces, Miss Gremory, leaving us all to our fate, she said with tears. Issei. That miserable man, he said angrily. Rias. Calm down, everything will be fine, she said while helping the girl. Issei. Claire, help the girl take you to the 3rd floor, you and Alexia, Jill and Ada help the survivors, Rias, take us to the upper floor, he said seriously. Rias. Yes, she said seriously while the group separated until the brown-haired boy reached a large steel door. Issei. Seriously, just a metal door, he said seriously. Rias. Inside the bunker we didn't think they could arrive, so they made this time of doors, she said seriously. Issei. Well then, on the count of 1 2 3, he said seriously, hitting the door with his booster gear, knocking it down on impact. Surzich. Who are they? He said alarmed. Issei. It's been a while, Mau Lucifer. Meeting. The whole place fell completely silent as Isee looked at those women he once loved, the one he claimed to be his best friend, and that man he considered an older brother. They were somewhat dirty with their clothes torn, but there they were staring at him in disbelief. Surzich. Issei, it's you, he said incredulously. Issei. I see you remember my name, Mau Lucifer, he said with a voice as cold as ice. Makeno. Issei, you don't know how much we missed you, she couldn't continue because a certain Rias spoke. Rias. You're a bucking hypocrite, how dare you say that, being one of the first to change it for that imbecile, she said with pure hatred. Issei. Calm down, it's not worth it. Besides, ladies, don't waste your time saying that kind of stupidity like Issei, you don't know how sorry we are for what we did, or for example Isee, we realize that you're the only one we love. I'm not here to hear that, he said angrily. Asia. But Isee-san, we couldn't continue because Isee spoke. Issei. Commander Hyoudou, for all of you we are not friends, we are not acquaintances, you understand, he said with contempt. Surzich. But Isee, please know that we are wrong. Bang. A shot passed by the Rias as Isee pointed his gun at him, while all of the brunette's former acquaintances looked at him in disbelief, since they never thought that the brunette would dare to do something like that. Zenobia. But why the hell did you do that? She said incredulously. Issei. Isn't it obvious that I told you that I didn't come to listen to your nonsense, he said seriously, putting away his weapon. Hibba. So what have you come for? He said seriously. Issei. I came to rescue the few survivors that there are in each faction. Right now a second team is in charge of going for the people that you damned wretches abandoned to their fate on the 3rd floor, he said seriously. Makeno. So they come to save us, she said while everyone smiled. Issei. And who said that, he said seriously. Surzich. You will leave us here to our fate, he said angrily. Graphia. I think it's for the best, people like you just cause trouble, she said with contempt in her voice, leaving the Rias in shock. Clark. Issei are infected, he said seriously while pointing at Asia, who was covering a bite on her leg. Issei. You wanted to come with us and one of you was infected, you are miserable, he said seriously while shaking his head. Makeno. She's not the only one infected, she said with her head down as everyone uncovered their arms and legs, revealing bites. Issei. And why don't you go look for your powerful hacker Yuku, the one who was better than me, the love of your life, eh? Tell me why you didn't go for his help, he said while looking at them so coldly, causing enormous pain to all of them. Zenobia. You're with Rias and the others, you should already know what happened, right? She said angrily. Issei. No, the truth is that not since I met Rias, Koneko, Kuroka and Ross, the women that I love, we have avoided talking about you and that idiot. Now I would like to know what happened to the descendant of Lucifer, he said seriously, causing more pain in the women when they heard how he referred to Rias and the others. Makeno. He abandoned us, she said sadly. Issei. Sorry, I heard right, he abandoned them, he said surprised but trying to hide his desire to laugh like crazy. Surzich. That's right, a few days after the infection began, we all panicked trying to find a solution, so we gathered together, but when we tried to locate him, he sent us a message saying that he could no longer pretend to be a hero, so he escaped without any support between us. We made the decision to take refuge in bunkers and within our factions, he said sadly, remembering everything. Issei. I see, well the truth is I already knew that I had abandoned them, I just wanted to hear it from their mouths, after all their faces are a delight he said amused. Zenobia. You knew it and yet you made us say it she said angrily. Issei. If you see, I can achieve many things, don't you believe it? He said amused. Zenobia. Who are you? She said incredulously. Issei. I am Hyoudou Issei, that perverted boy who always dreamed of being the king of the harem and who was able to fulfill his dream and was able to live happily with those people he loved the most, but everything went to waste because of damned boors like you, that despite the fact that I gave everything for you. You abandoned me and went with another, but despite that and all the pain I had to go through, I got up and kept going day after day fighting in this damn world that went to waste because of those creatures, but despite everything I continued with a clear goal to come to the underworld and recover the women who knew how to value my love, and for that I made new friends like Clark who for me he is not only a friend, but like a brother who always supported me, and despite being human, he was supporting me with my madness of coming here, and obviously it is worth noting that I would achieve my goal with the help of my partner he said, showing the booster gear. Sirzich. I am possible Draigg was supposed to have disappeared he said incredulously. Issei. That's the best of all, you who despised me for not having Draigg anymore must now feel much more stupid, knowing that I'm still the Sekiryuite, but this doesn't end here a few days ago, more or less like a week ago I met Vali in the human world, and I killed him, I took revenge for everything he did to me, and if you don't believe me, Clark he said calmly. Clark. With pleasure he said seriously while invoking Albion's wings. Albion. It's been a while, bunch of hitches and a pathetic leader said the dragon, leaving everyone in shock. Bekeno. So it's true that you killed Vali she said incredulously. Issei. If I just told you, are you deaf? And not only did I do that, the humans exterminated almost all the fallen, only you remain he said seriously. Sirzich. What did you say? He said angrily. Issei. Well, it wasn't just the humans, Michael and Gabriel also helped by killing the stupid Arena and the idiot Azazel, unfortunately they also lost their lives during the fight he said seriously. Sirzich. What did you say then? Angels and fallen have ceased to exist he said incredulously. Issei. That's right, it's a shame, but most likely the second team is already finishing off the people on the third floor, so we're leaving he said seriously. Bekeno. Please Isee-kun take us with you please we will do whatever she said with tears. Issei. If they are infected we will not take them he said seriously. Kiba. Why you're a bastard, how can you do this to us? He said angrily as he summoned a sword and attacked the brown-haired boy. Issei. Don't try to be smart, princess he said seriously while he stopped the sword with his hand and with a little force he threw it to the ground. Murayama. We still have the possibility of creating the cure with the help of Alexia she said seriously while the traitors felt some hope. Issei. The cure can only be created with people who were barely infected for a maximum of 4 hours, and I doubt that you only have that much time he said seriously making everyone depressed. Asia. Please Isee-san you can do something you always have a solution she said hopefully while hugging the brown-haired boy by the legs. Issei. Yes, of course I have a solution he said calmly as he freed himself from the girl's grip. Bekeno. And what is it she said hopefully. Issei. This is an M19, it's a pistol with a capacity for 7 bullets and there are 5 of you, you already know what you have to do, right? He said firing 2 shots against the wall, leaving it on the ground and then leaving there. The entire group of Isee went down the stairs while they met with Claire and the others who were loading the few refugees into the transport, ready to return to the human world, but not before hearing 5 explosions that froze their blood a little, except for Isee who continued walking as if nothing had happened. Clark. Alexia was able to create an antidote for them, no matter how long they had been infected, he said seriously, as they both separated from the group walking to their vehicles. Issei. Yes, I know he said seriously. Clark. So he said seriously. Issei. I gave them the chance to die honestly. New rules, new dangers. We can see the 6 vehicles entering through a portal and finally leaving the underworld after recovering a large number of demons where there were some old familiar faces like Sona and Saraerg and others that the brown-haired boy would not have wanted to see in his life in the case of Serafal. Issei. Okay, everyone get down, we've arrived he said calmly as the demons began to come out, seeing the Washington BSAA headquarters. Sona. Here we can start a new life she said hopefully. Issei. Of course, but everyone must contribute their grain of sand so that the power station can continue to grow until the whole world can become a peaceful place again. Saraerg. That sounds fabulous he said calmly as a group of soldiers arrived with the council members. Issei. It's strange to have the presence of the council in person for which they have come he said seriously. MC1. We knew that being a supernatural being you would not take long to seek help and that is why we are here he said seriously. MC3. We are not here to have a racial conflict, much less the only thing we are looking for is that there can be a healthy coexistence between humans and the different factions, that is why we would like to speak with their leaders, if they have one, she said seriously. Clark. But what will happen to the secret if only people of a fairly high rank know about them? Revealing this information to everyone could cause conflicts between people, he said seriously. MC5. That's why they don't have to worry because of the recent attack of the fallen angels, everything had to be revealed, including that during the attack, people recorded the moment of the attack, watching their group fight not only with weapons, but also with magic, baptizing them with certain names, he said seriously. Issei. He's serious, he said incredulously. MC7. Of course we have her 4 friends now known as the Guardian Sorceresses, she said, showing an image of Rias, Koneko, Kuroka and Ross. Rias. Wow, that doesn't sound bad, she said thoughtfully. MC7. Then there is the Winter Queen said, showing a video of Graphia freezing everything. Graphia. It's cute, she said shyly. MC7. And finally you people heard in several videos that were obtained from the battle where you were called the Red Emperor Dragon and the White Emperor Dragon, right? He said seriously looking at the 2 boys. Clark. That's right, he said curiously. MC7. Well now young Hyoudou, you are now the Red Dragon of Truth and you young Redfield are the White Dragon of Justice, he said calmly while showing a bunch of excited children watching the fight of both against Wesker. Issei. Wow, that's a good name, don't you think, Draigg, he said calmly. Draigg. Finally a name worthy of my hide, he said while crying could be heard. MC2. Well, do the demons have a leader or not currently? He said seriously while the demons looked at each other. Draigg. We have it, Miss Sona Citri, he said seriously while pointing at the black-haired girl. MC1. You, he said seriously looking at the black-haired girl. Sona. I sorry if it's me, she said a little nervously but then firmly. MC1. Excellent, well Miss Citri, we would like to see if the demons are really willing to contribute to the development and healthy coexistence of our race, he said seriously. Sona. Of course we are willing to maintain peace and healthy coexistence with humans, she said firmly while her people nodded. MC1. Well said, the group of soldiers will take a record of each new person who arrives at our home. They will then be taken to a shelter where they will be provided with food and basic necessities while they rebuild the city and the new buildings. Do you think so? He said seriously. Sona. We thank you for accepting us into your home, she said, shaking the man's hand. MC1. We'll be waiting for you tomorrow at the BSAA headquarters building to talk about the demon's life plan, he said calmly as he left with the other members of the council. Issei. It seems that they are already members of the city, he said calmly. MC1. Agent Hyoudou, when you go for other survivors, send a message to the base to prepare a group of soldiers to take the records and have a member of the council explain the situation to the corresponding leader, understanding, he said seriously. Issei. Sir, yes sir, he said firmly while the man nodded and left. Clark. Well, man, where are we going now? He said seriously. Issei. Get in the cars and follow me, he said calmly while his group nodded goodbye to Sona to enter a magic circle. Olympus. The 6 vehicles arrived at the place where the gods of Greek culture could be found, but everyone was left open-mouthed seeing how what could once be considered a beautiful place was now totally in chaos, something that was already expected. Issei. It used to be a beautiful place, he said seriously while watching lightning strike everywhere. Clark. Well, I see, what's the plan now? He said, curious. Issei. It would be best to leave the vehicles here and have most of the girls stay here, only those who can use magic should come, he said seriously. Ada. Issei, are you sure, she said worried like the others. Issei. If it were another faction, believe me, I wouldn't hesitate to take them with me, but here things could get very complicated if a god could get infected, he said seriously. Claire. Okay, we'll stay, but be careful, she said, not very sure, while the others spread their wings and went to the top of Mount Olympus. Rias. Zeus must be alive, he is the only one who can use lightning bolts, she said thoughtfully. Issei. Yes, maybe it is him, but the fact that he throws them in such an uncontrolled manner worries me, he said as everyone reached the top of the place seeing a strange room. Clark. Alerts, he said seriously. Graphia. Who would have thought that this place would become so gloomy, she said seriously. Ross. Watch out, he shouted as he saw a beam of energy coming in his direction, causing everyone to jump. Who are they? Said a scared voice. Issei. I am Hyoudou Issei the Securite, he said seriously. Impossible, the Securite lost his powers a long time ago, she said nervously. Issei. Wow, the great god Zeus had the balls to tell the truth. He also told them that he and the other leaders threw me into the human world like a dog to my fate, he said seriously. Zeus. Of course I told him, I also told them that it was the worst mistake we could have made, he said seriously, while he appeared very badly injured being supported by a green-haired girl. Issei. Wow, who do we have here? The great ruler of Olympus, and from what I see you are not in good shape, he said coldly. Zeus. Young Hyoudou, I know you have many things to reproach me for, but this is not a safe place, we need to leave, he said seriously. Issei. But he couldn't continue because some footsteps were heard behind them. Clark. I think your hunch was right, said seeing two zombies, but with terrifying power. Issei. Zombie gods. Olympic chaos. Issei and company looked on in disbelief seeing both gods turned into zombies, complicating the mission since, if defeating a normal zombie was difficult, what would happen against a god, but for the brown-haired boy, this did not surprise him much since he maintained a serious smile. Issei. Wow, this is going to be difficult, but we're going for it, he roared loudly as he blew past Cardinal Chrisman and launched himself at Hades. Clark. Albion, we must not be left behind, he said releasing his power reaching the Cardinal White again going to attack Poseidon. The fight shook Mount Olympus, both dragons began to give their all against the zombie gods, who seemed to be beings with their primitive instincts, but with the ability to fight in a fierce way. Zeus. Who is the hacker Yuiku, he said confused seeing another person with Vali's sacred gear. Rias. His name is Clark Redfield, a human who is much more worthy of being the White Emperor than that imbecile, she said with annoyance, looking at the god who only regretted his actions. Raphia. It's not worth it to lament Zeus anymore, now who else is alive apart from that girl who accompanies him, she said seriously. Zeus. Only my daughters Athena and Artemis are alive, he said sadly. Rias. He's saying that all the other gods died, she said surprised. Zeus. That's right, months after betraying the Seker and we were confined in our faction, Rizavim appeared with a strange blonde man in black clothes and said that we would be the test of his powerful virus known as the Ouroboros, releasing the virus throughout Olympus. Many servants died upon contact with the virus, turning into strange black things. While some gods succumbed to the infection and the few of us who were able to avoid the infection had to fight against them, Apollo, Hera, Hestia, among others, lost their lives, and only the four of us remained, he said, while spitting out some blood. Father, said the green-haired girl worried. Zeus. Calm down, I can still fight, he said seriously. Levivna. Of course he's not very hurt, she said seriously. Zeus. I must help the celestial dragons, that could be a good start to be able to atone for my sins with the young Isee, after what I did to him, he said seriously as he stood up. Rias. High God Zeus, let them take care of it. You know very well what Isee is capable of doing, so you understand that he will do everything possible to finish them off, even if it leads to death, she said seriously, while the man just lowered his head. Raphia. Now if you want to be of help, tell us how we can get to where your daughters are, she said seriously. Zeusigam. While the girls got to work to rescue the almost non-existent Olympic faction, Issei and Clark had their frantic battle against the brothers of the god of lightning, who had them badly hurt. Issei. Damn Clark together, he said seriously summoning his cannons. Clark. Okay, he said seriously. Isee Clark. Dragon Blaster Dragon Destroyer both launched a powerful attack, causing a huge explosion that shook all of Olympus. Clark. It worked, he said doubtfully. Issei. No, he said annoyed as they watched the two gods come out of a crater with only a few scratches. Draigg. Their resistance is terrifying, if we continue like this we will end up exhausted and we will be easy prey, he said seriously. Albion. Some red plan, he said seriously. Draigg. The most feasible thing would be to escape and leave them trapped in Olympus forever, but with the speed they have, it would be impossible to escape, he said frustrated. Issei. Damn, we have to keep fighting, he couldn't continue because Hades appeared in front of him, giving him a blow that broke the abdomen of the armor, making him spit blood. Something like that. Clark. Ice, the black-haired boy was hit by Poseidon, who grabbed him by the face and began to drag him across the floor and then threw him against a structure that fell on top of him. Issei. Damn they are zombies, but their power is still terrible, damn it, he said while having blood on his forehead and mouth. Draigg. Come on partner, we can always get out of this no matter the challenge, we have come out victorious, and more now that you finally got back the women you love, and not only that, now you have other girls waiting for you, get up and let's give it our all, he said seriously while Isee stood up. Issei. You're right, we have to win, it's time for our last letter, he said seriously. Clark. Ma damn haha, I never imagined what Isee was up against when he belonged to the supernatural this surpasses everything I've ever experienced before cough cough the boy tried to stand up while spitting blood. Albion. Come on mate, don't tell me you're going to give up, he said seriously. Clark. Albion, I don't know, for the first time I don't know if I'll get out alive, he said weakly. Albion. You're telling me that in all your missions you always knew you would come out alive no matter what horrors you faced. You always knew you would come out alive. Don't make me laugh. I saw your memories. You were always afraid, but you knew you had to go on for your sister, the only family you had left. You were with her. You saw her pain when your brother died. Now you want her to suffer again, and worse yet, Jill, Alexia and Evelyn, don't you want to see them again? He said seriously. Clark. I want to get back with them. I want to have a life with them, he said while gathering strength to get up. Albion. There is a way to win, but it is risky. Are you willing to take the risk, he said seriously. Clark. For them I will do it. With Rias and the others. We can see Rias and the others coming out of a hiding place. Well, they were followed by two other girls who helped Habe carry a badly injured Zeus, who was trying to stand on his own, although he had many difficulties. Athena. And how are we going to get out of here? Said a worried purple-haired girl. Rias. We have some vehicles where we can get them out of this place, she said seriously. Artemis. Wait, what happens with Hades and Poseidon? Said a worried blue-haired girl. The Fae. The celestial dragons are taking over, she said seriously. Athena. The celestial dragons. She couldn't continue because the whole place began to shake and a terrifying power began to be felt throughout the place. Artemis. It's them, she said, scared, thinking they were the zombie gods. Zeus. No, I felt this power before during the war against Trihexa, but it's impossible. It was when the young Isee activated that he couldn't continue because Rias spoke with horror. Rias. Diabolo's dragon. Draigg. Remember the last time we did this? He said seriously. Issei. I ended up in a coma and my life changed forever, but this time it won't be clever, he said seriously. Draigg. Whenever you want, he said seriously while they felt another power increasing like his. Albion. This mode could never be completed due to Lucifer's cowardice, but if you are willing we will do it, he said seriously. Clark. If we finish them off I don't care about the sacrifice, he said seriously. Albion. Issei was right, you're the one, he said with amusement. Issei. The crimson red dragon that dwells within me, awaken from your dominion. Clark. The pure white dragon that dwells within me, rise from your supremacy. Draigg. The crimson celestial dragon within me rises to become king and roars. Albion. The silver white morning star within me claims the throne of dawn. Draigg. The jet black god of infinity. Albion. The jet black god of infinity. Issei. The glorious red god of dreams. Clark. The mysterious and unfathomable father of humans. Issei. Draigg. Watch over the forbidden existence, we will become that transcends limits. Clark. Albion. We will transcend the limits to accept the oath. Issei. Draigg. You will dance like a glow within our hell. Clark. Albion. You will kneel before our brilliant and glorious existence. Before Diabolo's dragon. Rias all too. Dragons versus gods. The entire Olympus, not all the places where living beings lay, shook violently as an overwhelming power was felt, while the human girls of both dragons looked at the center of the faction as two enormous pillars rose to the sky, one red and the other white. Who knew Sherry Evely Papa? Isee. Draigg. Clark. Albion. Diabolos, Drago. The pillars exploded, creating a blinding light that prevented the supernaturals from seeing what was happening. Slowly Rias and the others along with the gods regained their vision, looking in surprise as on the battlefield in front of the zombie gods were now the boys with the most powerful armor of all, releasing an extremely terrifying power. Zombie gods. Cry I. As soon as the gods let out their war roar, both dragons moved at great speed, disappearing from the sight of the spectators, violently crashing against the gods, resuming the fight, but this time it was increasingly brutal since each blow that the four of them released destroyed part of the battlefield that was behind them. Zeus. The power of the Securuite is monstrous, he said in amazement. Graphia. It even surpasses the power she had when she faced the Trihexa, she said seriously. Rias. That's right, but they already know what risk they are exposed to with that transformation, she said worriedly. Issei. I will win, I will not lose against you, final dragon, he said determinedly while firing a powerful ray at Poseidon, who received it squarely. Draigg. Damn, they don't hold the title of gods for nothing, he said frustrated as he saw that this time they did manage to damage the god and it was considerable damage, but he had a monstrous regeneration due to the virus. Issei. Yes, but even so, these do not compare to the beast of the apocalypse, he said energetically launching himself into the attack again. Clark. Now I have qualities similar to Isee, so I will not be left behind. I will give my best to defeat you, you damn cheap god, he said furiously, while exchanging attacks with Hades, who used his claws just like the boy. Albion. Thus it is said, we will not be left behind by the red team, and even less so after the gift of Ophis. Flashback. In the hospital of the human world, Sona and her queen had helped Ophis recover, who was weak after what had happened, although after the death of her counterpart, she had completely recovered her power. Clark. Goddess Ophis sent for me, he said curiously, entering the room, seeing the lowly sitting looking directly at him. Ophis. I'm glad you came, come, I have something to give you, she said calmly. Clark. What is it? Said the black-haired man curiously as he approached her. Ophis. This will help you to reach the most powerful form of a celestial dragon, she said calmly, introducing a dark sphere the size of a baseball into the boy's body. Clark. Because why give it to me, he said curiously. Ophis. So you can do something for me, she said with a slight smile. Clark. What a thing, he said confused. Ophis. Take care of Isee. Then flashback. Clark. I won't let you down, I swear. The place began to be destroyed as it could not support the titanic battle between these four colossi, and it was only a matter of time before Olympus ceased to exist. Ross. We have to get out of here, she said seriously. Rias. But Isee, she said worriedly. Rafia. Rias knows how to take care of herself, and she will get out of this, she always does, but we must leave here as soon as possible, she said alarmed while everyone helped Zeus rise into the air. Rias. Isee. The fight continued, neither of them giving any respite, but as the fight progressed the dragons realized something was happening to the gods, and it was not for the worse. Issei. The mutation is getting out of control, he said seriously. Clark. And if we continue like this, the whole place will be destroyed, including us, he said, while sending the god away with a punch. Draigg, with that regeneration we can't do much, he said seriously. Albion. We have to finish them off with a single attack, but how? He said seriously. Claire. Girls are back, where's Isee? She said worriedly. Jill. And Clark, she said with a pain in her chest. Rias. They keep fighting, she said distressed while everyone watched as shock waves were produced in Olympus or what was left of it as it fell to pieces. Draigg. I got it, he said seriously. Issei. What's wrong? He said while holding the sea god at bay. Draigg. I know how you can destroy them, but you have to be fast, he said seriously. Clark. Like, I'm all ears, he said seriously as he fired several attacks, dropping debris on the king of the underworld. Draigg. Combine your power, he said seriously. Issei. But how the hell are we going to do that if we are opposites, he said seriously. Draigg. You have part of Albion's power inside you, forget it, use it as a channel to unite your powers, he said seriously. Albion. They could work, he said seriously. Issei. Well, go ahead, he said seriously, while the right arm of his armor turned white with a blue gem. Draigg. Issei, increase your power until it reaches the limit, he said seriously, so that later the characteristic boost of his sacred gear could be heard. Albion. Clark, your turn, let's steal all that power, he said seriously while the divide was present. Draigg. Now transfer the power to Iseei's right arm, he said seriously, while the black-haired boy nodded, placing both hands on the brown-haired boy's arm. Issei, this is too much power, he screamed in pain. Albion. Hold on a little longer, Hyoudou, said the dragon seriously. Draigg. Do it now, serious shout. Isee. Universal final dragon, he shouted with all his might, causing a huge explosion. Rias and company watched in horror as the explosion began to consume all of Olympus, but before Rias could say anything, Grafia opened a portal that began to transport everyone, including the vehicles, to the human world. Rias. What the hell are you doing? Isee and Clark are still there, I scream in despair. Grafia. I had no choice, she said sadly. Rias. What the hell are you talking about? I screamed furiously while grabbing her by the neck. Grafia. Do you think they would have wanted you to die? No, I only did what they would have done, protect them, screams in pain. Rias. I don't want to listen, she couldn't continue because a loud bang was heard near them. They quickly went to see what had caused it and saw a somewhat huge crater where the boys were with their armor somewhat broken and slowly began to return to the balance breaker and later lose them, leaving only the somewhat injured boys. Clark. Does anyone have an orange slice? He said weakly. Issei. Hello was the only thing he said before falling unconscious like his partner. Rias. Isee. Peace. We can see a room in the hospital where a young black-haired boy and a brown-haired boy could be seen lying in their beds without any sign of responding, while at their sides there were a couple of girls who looked at them sadly, but their attention was caught when the door opened. Ross. They're still the same, aren't they? Said the Valkyrie entering with Alexia. Rias. If it's like last time, she said sadly, caressing the brown-haired boy's face. Jill. If that's the case, they'll be like this for months, and they've only been like this for a week, she said sadly. Alexia. If only there was a damn way to reverse the damage that transformation causes them, said the blonde helplessly. Rias. I know, he knew how dangerous it was, and he still did it again, she said sadly. Ross. You know he'll always do whatever it takes to protect us, she said, head down. Issei. Because I love you, that's why I will do the impossible, he said calmly while capturing everyone's attention. Rias, Ross, Isee, they shouted excitedly, running to where he was. Jill. I woke up, that's what it means. She couldn't continue because a voice was heard. Clark. Ah, what the heck happened where I am, said the black-haired man, somewhat disoriented while shaking his head. Jill. Alexia. Clark shouted excitedly. Clark. Wow, I don't know what's going on, but I think I like it, he said, amused, having his two women hugging him. Rias. But because we thought they would be in a coma for longer, she said, confused. Issei. I know so little, he said doubtfully. Draigg. And why don't you ask the being inside you, he said calmly, the gem appearing on the brown-haired boy's arm. Issei. Draigg, I mean you, he said, surprised. Draigg. You see, my friend, seeing that your only option to defeat the zombie gods was to enter the Dragon Diabolos, I thought of the idea of storing enough energy to prevent your body from collapsing, he said seriously, surprising everyone. Albion. But it seems that we did not collect enough since they were in bed for a week, he said calmly from the wings. Clark. So you had the same idea as him, he said curiously, turning his head a little, looking at his wings. Albion. Not exactly, in fact he told me that if it weren't for Draigg you would still be in bed, said the dragon sadly. Clark. I understand, he said with a drop of sweat on his head. Issei. Well girls, what happened this last week? He said curiously. Rias. Enough things. Ophis, in order to fulfill your mission, went to Asgard and brought the few survivors that remained, she said calmly. Issei. I see, and the old man accepted so easily, as did the fox, he said somewhat seriously. Rias. As for Yusaka, she didn't have much of a choice, since everything that remains of her faction turned against her after the visit you made to them with their new leader, a Kyuubi named Ari. As for the old father of everything, the dead don't speak, she said seriously. Issei. He died, he said somewhat surprised. Ross. That's right, according to what they told us, there was a failure in the protective barriers, and before they could react, their shelter was invaded by zombies, and in a last act as a leader, he decided to sacrifice himself so that the survivors could escape, he said calmly. Issei. I see, in the end he did things right, but now who rules what remains of the Asgardians, he said curiously. Ross. My grandmother, he said with annoyance. Issei. It seems that there was not a nice family reunion, he said amused. Ross. The hypocrite thought I had forgiven her after what she did, she said annoyed. Issei. Calm down, let's leave everything bad aside, he said calmly. Ross. Yes, I think you're right. He couldn't continue because the door opened again. Kuroka. Ross, we brought the girls so they could see their dads, and she couldn't continue because she saw how everyone was looking at them amused. Ada, Claire, Isee, Clark, they said in disbelief. Sherry, Kunu, Evelyn. Dad, they shouted excitedly as they ran to where their parents were. Clark. So nice to see you, little one, he said while hugging his little girl. Evelyn. But when they woke up, she said happily while hugging the black-haired boy, tightly trying to hold back her tears. Kunu. Dad, you don't know how much we miss you, she said with a few tears. Sherry. You are a fool for using such a dangerous way, she said with tears. Issei. I'm sorry, no, it won't happen again, he said sadly. Rias. That's what you said last time, she said seriously, scaring the brown-haired boy. Issei. Yes, I know, but this time I swear it to you, since I hope that only the problems are minor, so that I don't need that form ever again, he said calmly, making people feel some relief. Alexia. And you, she said seriously while together with Evelyn and Jill they looked seriously at the black-haired boy. Clark. I'm sure there's no problem, I swear, he said calmly. Issei. Well, I think that the problem is solved. He couldn't continue because a doctor entered the room. Doctor? What a surprise, young Hyoudou, young Redfield. I'm very glad you've woken up, he said, amazed. Issei. Thank you, doctor, we are also happy to wake up and we would like to know if you could discharge us now, he said calmly. Doctor? Calm down, young Hyoudou, don't be so anxious, everything comes to its own. Remember that we must follow a protocol, but seeing you so full of energy, maybe I can discharge you in a couple of hours, he said calmly. Issei. That sounds good. 4 hours later. We can see Isee with his wives, daughters and friends on top of a small hill that seemed to be a cemetery, looking at a tombstone with some sadness and melancholy. Issei. I will fulfill your last wish no matter what happens, my friend, he said calmly while looking at Saji's grave. Rias. Issei said something sad. Issei. From now on I will fight to protect everyone and maintain life in this apocalypse, he said seriously as he summoned his gauntlet, raising his arm high while looking at the sunset of the city. Issei. It's a promise. Epilogue. The beautiful day began as the sun's brightness covered the entire city, a simply beautiful place, and to think that a few years ago this same place was involved in a zombie apocalypse, but today all that seemed like a bad dream, and one of the people who felt the happiest for his new life was a mature adult brown-haired man who was awakened by the sun's rays. Claire. Good morning sleepyhead, said the cheerful brunette while giving him a light kiss. Issei. Good morning, where are the others? He said curiously as he stood up. Claire. Rias is preparing breakfast, Koneko and Ophis went for a run, Murayama is in the shower, Ada went to see some things at the Chinese embassy, Ross and Kuroka are watching the baby, she said calmly. Issei. I see, it's already 8 o'clock, I have to hurry, he said calmly as he finished getting dressed. Rias. Good morning Isee, she said happily while serving breakfast, and the brown-haired boy gave her a kiss. Issei. Good morning, he said calmly as he sat at the table next to his daughters. Who knew? It's late again, Dad, said the now teenage yokai. Kuroka. You already know your father, it seems that as the years went by, Draigg made him sleepy, Naya, said the woman amused as she arrived at the dining room with the Valkyrie, bringing with them 7 babies. Draigg. Hey, that offends me, said the dragon from the chestnut's hand. Sherry. He Mr. Draigg and Dad will never change, said the teenager amused while those mentioned became depressed. Rias. Girls, you have to hurry up or you'll be late too, she said a little seriously while she took a little red-haired baby and gave her bottle. Shirikunu? Yes, they said somewhat scared. Issei. Damn, I hate security meetings, he said with annoyance while eating. Claire. I don't know what bothers you, those meetings are held every 6 months and you are the pillar that created the balance between all the races, she said calmly while feeding her baby. Issei. I know, but they are very boring, he said boredom. Murayama. We know that changing your way of living from one moment to the next was difficult, since changing from having to fight zombies frantically to having an office job is something drastic, he said with a forced smile as he entered the dining room, showing his bulging belly. Issei. I don't mean that, in fact with this new job I can spend more time with you than I've always wanted, but the meetings are always the same, and at a certain point it's okay since everything will remain peaceful, but you couldn't do it without me, but it doesn't matter Murayama, what time do you have your appointment with the doctor, he said with his head down. Murayama. It will be at 5 o'clock in this ultrasound they will tell us the hex of the baby, she said very happily while caressing her belly, and the brown-haired boy just smiled. Issei. Well, I'll see you there, well, see you later, he said calmly as he stood up and gave each of his women a kiss. Girls. Good luck. The brown-haired boy left his home so that his daughters could come out behind him, and before the brown-haired boy did anything a car stopped in front of him. Clark. You're going somewhere, he said calmly as he lowered the window, seeing an adult black-haired man next to a black-haired girl. Issei. Clark, when did you come back even though you were still in Europe, he said curiously. Clark. I arrived last night, Eve brought me the transport, he said calmly, while the brunette took her things and got out of the car. Evelyn. Goodbye Dad, see you Uncle Isee, she said happily while she and the brown-haired daughters took the bus. Clark. I'll take you, he said calmly while the brown-haired boy got into the car. Issei. And what are you saying? He said curiously. Clark. Not much, Jill is very happy because we are having a boy and Alexa is proud to see that little Liz can already walk, he said calmly. Issei. Wow, but if she's only 6 months old, well, being Alexa's daughter, I'm not surprised, and since Evelyn is pretty stable, he said curiously. Clark. She is the happiest with her siblings since she always wanted to have them, the problem is that she wants at least 4, and well her mothers don't object, he said nervously. Issei. Haha, are you really afraid of more children? Look at me, I have 9 children and the 10th is on the way, or Sarah or Gansona already have 5, he said amused. Clark. You have a good point, but I don't know. I want to finish raising some before having others, he said thoughtfully. Issei. You also have a good point, he said calmly but somewhat distracted. Clark. Something's wrong, he said curiously. Issei. No, nothing, I was just thinking about things, he said calmly. Clark. That's not normal for you, he said curiously. Issei. I just think about how things were changing and the twists and turns that life takes from being a simple perverted boy to becoming a being capable of fighting the beast of the apocalypse to becoming a government agent who fought biological weapons, he said calmly while looking at the city. Clark. For me it is a great story that shows the story of a young man who daily surpassed his limits, who despite the threats never gave up, and who regardless of adversities such as betrayal, continued without looking back just to be with the women he always loved, he said calmly while Isee just looked at him. Issei. If you say it like that it sounds great, he said calmly. Draigg. Well, your story is great, he said seriously. Albion. I agree with the Red Hyoudou, your story is simply incredible, he said calmly, surprising the brown-haired boy when he saw that even the white boy was with them. Issei. And now where are we according to you, he said curiously. Clark. You know it very well, he said calmly. Issei at the final. And that is how a young man with a noble and kind heart, although a little perverted, knew how to overcome all adversities to be able to be with the women he always loved. No matter the betrayal, abandonment and sadness he had to go through, he continued forward regardless of whether he had to face gods, zombies or both. With courage and effort and the support of his loved ones, he showed that when you want, you can. Today ends the story of Hyoudou Issei, a survivor. Post credits. We can see both ex-agents arriving at the United Nations offices while the two were getting ready to enter the meeting. It must be said that Isee was not very excited, but since his job had to be done, he still had a doubt in his mind, so he decided to tell his friend. Issei. Hey, you haven't found anything about Griselda, he said curiously. Clark. I haven't searched all the files in each country, even the confidential ones, but we must assume that she is dead or that she was turned into a zombie or. The black-haired man remained silent while thinking. Issei. What's going on, he said curiously. Clark. You see, a couple of months ago, strange information came from Central Europe where they talked about a woman with black wings who was considered a deity in a small village and who had kept the zombie infection away from that place, he said seriously. Issei. And you think it's Griselda, he said curiously. Clark. It could be. After all, if Michael died like Gabriel, all the angels would have fallen, and since she is the only one left, she would now be fallen, he said seriously. Issei. And if they talk about a woman with black wings, it is possibly a fallen one, and she being an angel with more than one pair of wings could be her. In which country did that happen, he said curiously. Clark. Romania. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.